and tonight this gentleman will be making his network television debut. This is his most recent album right here. It's called Spirit of Love. We're very pleased to welcome Njenje.
Arise from your sleep, Africa. Rise from your sleep, America. There's work to be done, Africa. There's work to be done, America. But if we unite, we will be free. So long, too long, so long, too long. We've been sitting down for so long. We've been fooling around for too long. We've been sitting down for so long. I have not been fooling around for too long. So long, so long, too long, too long, so long, for too long, too long. Hey. Remember, long time ago, when we used to live like queens and princess. Remember, the pyramid of Egypt, when we used to live like prince and princess. Remember, Marcus Garvey, who are the dream for New America. Oh, remember, Martin Luther King, the dream for New America. They say you are black, they say you are brown, they say you are black, they say you are brown. Only the angels of Jah is white now. Only the angels of God is white. So long, too long, so long, too long. We've been sitting down so long. We've been a fool around for too long. Arise from your sleep, Africa. Arise from your sleep, America. There's work to be done, Africa. So much work to be done, America. But if we unite, hey, we will be free. So long, too long, so long, too long. Pressing down for so long.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your geographical location. Welcome to this historic broadcast. As you can see on the screen there, the title of the broadcast, tonight broadcast is Referendum, a New Constitution, Not 1 Million Amendment of 1999 Constitution Will Save Nigeria. This is from the Patriots. And while we wait for our guests to join us. While we wait for our guests to join us, we will dive into it and know, at least when I came across this statement, referendum and a new constitution, not 1 million amendment of 1999 constitution will save us. What caught my attention is the word "save." And for those of you who knows my position is that I believe that a change in behavior and amending the constitution will help us. However, there is a shift, and this shift is as a result of when I saw this statement, and I said, okay, you know what? It's all about saving the country. So I believe in compromise when we are finding a solution to a problem. And if the solution is coming from the opposition, then I think it is wise to work with them as well too. Like I said, we will be joined to this evening with Tony, Nani, and Mr. Lani Pekun. I still spoke with myself and Tony. See how the chat this evening is on. I think he's driving when we spoke, and he promised to be on this show this evening, and I believe he's going to join us. And while we are waiting for them to join us in respect to this issue on moving the nation forward, we will discuss this. So the referendum and a new constitution, not 1 million amendment of 1999 constitution, will save Nigeria. So that is where we are today. And without a shadow of doubt, we all will agree that Nigeria certainly needs saving at this time. And if the current constitution is, the argument is the current constitution is our problem. Well, like I stated earlier, I don't see it that way. But because we are all fighting for the same thing, we wanted the same thing. So I made a shift to say, okay, if this is what is going to save us, then let us all go for it. Have one voice and make it happen within the time frame of what now in 2027. So that is the time frame I put on it. And I had this discussion with Mr. Tony, and hopefully they will be here soon to kickstart this, because this broadcast is primarily set for them, and hopefully I send them the link, and maybe I'm gonna put the link again on the comment section, just to be on the safe side for them. Maybe they can click on it and join the broadcast. However, they have the link already. Now, I will leave it that way. They have the link, they will click and join it. So if you are watching, thank you for joining this broadcast this evening. Will a new constitution save Nigeria? If yes, if no, what is the way forward? But we go with the yes for now, because this issue of the constitution has been discussed over the years. They said there's a 2014 file. So a lot of argument, report, writing, back and forth has gone into this current constitution. In fact, according to one of the statement here. It says here that let me see if I can get it here. So it's number 5. So this is it here. It says that the 1999 Constitution now delegitimize, shut down, and decommissioning process activated. This is by Tony Nnamdi and few men that I listened to the video. Chief Wale Onalepeku-San, Welfare Professor Akinyoye Bode, Adeniyi Kunu, Obadia Malafia, Tony Nnamdi, Robert Clark-San, use the phrase, I believe Chief John Nwodo, Senator Adeyeye, claimed that the Constitution can never give us progress or nor peace. So, if the Constitution, the current Constitution, is responsible for the chaos in the country, then we need a new Constitution. The argument will still rage as to if it is a new Constitution, about our behavior. That is what we are here to discuss. So thank you for joining us, Veteran Olawale. You need to, I don't know if you are joining from Nigeria. If you're joining from Nigeria, then if not, you appreciate if you have your video, your camera on, please. Your camera is off so that I can bring you on the stage. I'll bring you in the meantime until you have your camera on so that our viewers can know that we mean business during this time. So good evening, sir, for joining. Thanks for accepting the invitation. And also, Mr. Tony, thank you also for joining. Good evening, sir. And first and foremost, I would like to express my gratitude to the both of you for accepting the invitation. And I would like to thank His Excellency Mazi Njenje Media that made this also possible, even though he said it's a borrowed rope I'm giving to him. Mr. Tony, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. And welcome viewers.
How was your trip? How was your driving? Hope you had a good drive.
Yeah, thank you. As we're here, you know how it is here.
Okay. Thanks very much. I'll come back to you. Mr. Veteran Olawale, good evening to you, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening.
How are you? Thanks for accepting the invitation and for honoring it. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. So we're not going to waste much time. We're going to delve into this discussion. And from what is on the screen there, referendum and new constitution, not 1 million amendment of 1999 constitution, we save Nigeria. I stated earlier that what caught my attention is the word save. Definitely, Nigeria needs saving without a shadow of doubt. But before we go into the main discussion, I will give both of you the chance, maybe 3 minutes, to at least weigh in on the current situation, to tell the viewers, and what do you take? What's your take on the current situation of the country? Fuel prices up, the dollar is still going up. And there's a video I wanted to download and play for you, the Bini Auchi Coastal Road. It's a kind of a funny video to see what happened there. So I'll start with you, Mr. Tony Nnamdi. Could you just give us 3 minutes your take on the current situation of the country before we actually go into the main topic? Thank you. You muted, sir. You muted. Thank you. You just press the unmute button there. You're still muted, sir. Okay. I think he's having an issue with his... if you press the unmute button, you're going to be unmuted and the microphone. You are still muted, sir. We can't hear you. It's still showing muted. If you look at the microphone icon and you just unmute yourself, you spoke earlier. Now maybe it's your system having an issue. I'll come back to you, Mr. Tony. So, Veteran Olawale, could you please give us your take on the current situation in the country? Thank you. I think we are having a technical issue with our guests are having a technical issue. Okay, you're back. Thank you, Mr. Olawale.
Hello, I'm just still trying. I'm battling with my setup here.
Okay.
About that.
Okay, I'll come back to you. I think Mr. Tony is on air. Mr. Tony's been able to sort his own out. So, Mr. Tony, so 3 minutes, please. That's technology for you. Thank you.
Right. So, as it is, it's just simply to say that the country is in a free fall, and the organization I speak for, NINAS, had warned all of those who were heading to election in 2023 under the 1999 Constitution that things were so bad that if we went to that election, it would be very difficult to put things back to where they could be under control. Everybody could lose control of the situation because that Constitution is directly responsible for all of what Nigeria is contending with, whether it's the killings going on all across the Middle Belt.
We can't hear you again, Mr. Tony.
Right.
Okay,
or the
we can hear
corruption the corruption we see. And I challenge you on this program, anything that is the problem you hear from Nigeria, ranging from the killings to the corruption to the free fall of the economy to the infrastructure that is in decay, I will point the viewers to the section of that constitution that is directly responsible for it. And the fact that it will not improve, nothing, no matter who becomes president, is going to improve it under this constitution. So that's a challenge. That's why things are the way they are. The killings are happening just because of that constitution that puts arms and ammunition on the exclusive list, policing and the security on that exclusive list. And the Naira is in free fall because the refineries that should have been giving us petroleum products are not working because refineries are on that exclusive list. And so we're importing. A country that sells out 3 million barrels of crude oil every day is importing petroleum product for 200 million people. Is that not madness? And it is that constitution that locks down the capacity to refine for ourselves. It is that constitution that locks down the electricity we don't have. Is that constitution that locks because it puts electricity generation and transmission on that exclusive list. And so whatever it is that is going wrong in the manner we see every day, the humongous cost of governance, in which you see the kind of figures that there was budget, and because people could sit in Abuja and they pad the budget by 3.7 trillion, which was shared out in less than 48 hours amongst them, 3.7 trillion, quite apart from whatever they might have loaded into the budget itself. And so you see, it comes back to we are deliberately, those who swear to defend and uphold that constitution, those who choose to govern Nigeria with that kind of a constitution, the ones, and we who go to elections under that constitution, it's been there since 1999. Every single thing that has gone wrong, is going wrong, will go wrong, coming from that constitution. Why is it difficult for those who are ruining the lives of others to stop and listen for a moment? Because we have on the table what can solve the problem. And the danger is that the country could collapse on their head. The further danger is that the Fulani that are invading and killing are not stopping because nothing is standing their way right now to carry on with what they're doing. Why are the people in that danger not asking questions? They just go as they are told, as if they don't have capacity to reason things through. Those who went to the election of 2023 under the 1999 Constitution very richly deserve all of what they live through now. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get, that is far worse than it is now. Okay. Unless something happens and we have on the table something that can halt that drift. into the anarchy that is becoming.
Thank you. Mr. Veteran Olawale, again, thank you. Your Excellency Njenje Media, thank you for making this possible. Welcome on the show again. If you like, don't accept the borrowed rope. I've already placed it on you. So, Mr. Veteran Olawale, again, I will thank you. I appreciate accepting the invitation.
Please do not address do not address me in a borrowed rope, because
Mr. Wale, your take on the current situation of the nation before we go into the main topic, please. The floor is yours, sir.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this show. For me, the state of the country speaks to the point that if the foundation be faulty, what can the righteous do? The foundation of our country is faulty from inception, from its amalgamation stage. By the consultation of the founding fathers of the country. At that time, they beat because consultations were allowed into the independence of the country. And so again, there was an interregnum created by military incursion into governance. And all of that, you had long military rule, you know, with those who are not expected to rule, being in charge of governance at one point or the other, leading to the warped democratic rule that was foisted by the military regime under Olusegun Obasanjo at that time. You know, there has been a lot of circumvention of the will or the aspiration of the Nigerian people, and that's still going on. The state of the nation is worrisome. There are a lot of killings in the land, a lot of poverty, there's a lot of desperation because of poor governance and poor leadership, and because of the kind of corruptive system that was imposed by the ruling class, the political class. And come 2023, we will have the experience of what happened against the will of the people and the people's movement, which was circumvention by the ruling class or the political class of the will of the people, you know, through what you call glitches of the iris, etc., etc. It is not so much about contesting the election. It is also, you know, what to blame is a corrupt leadership that have decided to hold on to power even when everything is going down. For me, I'm going straight into the point now. That it will be a bit, it may be a bit, you know, unproductive to say do not go into elections. That do not go into elections when the people have not been sufficiently mobilized to appreciate and understand why they have to rise, you know, to do an alternative. You can't.
Sorry for interjecting you. Njenje Media, I'll come back to you. So, from what both of you have said, we can come to the agreement that we need a new constitution. If I am correct, if I'm making the right statement.
Well, definitely, we need a new people's democratic constitution. It has to be people-driven, people's owned, democratic nation.
Thank you. According to the document, Mr. Tony, that you sent to me, I'm going to point out here, it says the National Christian Elders Forum, their communique says, conference pointed out that the role of the National Assembly is to make laws, not to produce a constitution for the country. And the responsibility of producing the constitution rests on the ethnic nationalities, not on the National Assembly. Then it's a participant at this press conference called on the ethnic nationalities to organize and give Nigeria a new constitution. So I place a time frame, that is me, of 3 years, which is between now and 2027. Because like I stated earlier, what caught my attention is the word save in that earlier statement. So how do we, it's about solution now. Since we've agreed that we need a new constitution, how do we get the 220 million Nigerians, the 386, if I'm correct, ethnic group on board this thing? How do we go with the sensitization of this issue? Because time is of essence. We've argued on the current constitution. And like I said, I agreed that yes, corruption is enshrined in this our current constitution. If amendment will not save it and change of behavior, so we need a new constitution. How do we go about it? I'll start with you, Mr. Nandi. The time frame that I placed, my time frame may not fall with other people's time frame. It's 3 years between now and 2027. And like what Mr. Olawale said, and both of you said, that it is not about the current government. It's not because the government have come and go, have operated on this 1999 constitution, and it never worked. So how do we go about it now? To bring, based on what is being highlighted, to bring all ethnic nationalities to the table and organize and give Nigeria a new constitution. I yield the floor to you, Mr. Tony Nani, then I'll go to Mr. Olawale, please. Veteran Olawale, please. Thank you.
Yeah, if we can define what we're looking for, we like doctors would do, the diagnosis, the prescription, and then the treatment in that order. If we were to do the diagnosis of how we got to the mess we are in, it was because we abandoned the federal foundations upon which Nigeria was constructed. And in abandoning it, we went into something that will not work, unitarism, for a multi-ethnic country like Nigeria, of which it was on account of being a federation that we became one political union. Those were the discussions that happened between 1951 and 1959. The British, who were about to depart, were now holding discussions with these the three regions they had made out of the Nigeria they were governing up to that point. Each of these three regions made out their constitutions, because a federation, for when you talk about a new constitution for a federation, you are not discussing a federation anymore. A federation is a union of sovereignties, a union of constitutions. They are like countries that are coming together to form one political union, like you have Germany, France, Portugal, and forming European Union. And so by the time the British would depart and we were going to carry on in one form or the other, the three regions that were being governed at that time, like three separate countries, you didn't need to talk to anybody in any of the other regions to do what you were to do in your region. And they had to distill their constitutions. The Western region got through with its own in 1957. The Eastern region followed very shortly. The Northern region came only in 1959. These three constitutions went to Lancaster House to then discuss what could bring them to be in one union. And it was the level of autonomy that Ahmadu Bello, you remember in 1953 when Enahoro moved the motion for independence, it was opposed by the Northern delegation. In their numbers that the British had given to them, they defeated that motion. And they then all went along to where they said they needed more time. They had not sufficient education and exposure to compete with the balance of the regions. And so by the time the regions made out their constitutions, they came ready with their own only in 1959. But the discussions they had, the level of autonomy that Ahmadu Bello had insisted upon, 8 points of demand that Ahmadu Bello made on behalf of the northern region after opposing the motion for independence at that point, that the North will require those 8 things that will define the level of autonomy they will have to be able to have control of over their affairs sufficiently, not to be, some kind of trailing and being managed by other people as the British were going. And so it was those 8 points of demand that defined the discussions that now shaped the type of federation they agreed to be. The federating units had control of their own assets. They owned their assets and the powers to work those assets, and they were to contribute only 15% of their income to the purse of the center. And the mandate of the center was as delegated by the 3 regions. So the federal government was the union office for these 3 regions that were going to operate as one country. If their discussions on those demands, those 8 points demand of Ahmadu Bello, if those discussions did not settle, the Lancaster House discussions did not agree on all those things, they probably would have gone off as separate countries into independence. And so it was to be a federation, it was to be a secular union, because Ahmadu Bello wanted Sharia in the northern part. The middle belt, Joseph Tarka and others said, no. If we were to be, if Sharia were to come to the place, we are not Muslims and we're going to be in disarray, we're going to be in distress. And so the British in the Williams Commission settled it this way. They removed Sharia from the table and brought what they called the penal code, which will allow the non-Muslim to operate freely in northern region. So it was 2 fundamental agreements to be in one political union. If any of those 2 were missing, Nigeria would have gone off at that time as 3 separate countries. Now, coming into that independence, you saw what happened right from the first election. The British had their preferences, and Awolowo, who thought he won the election, ended up in prison. By 1962, they toppled the federal government against the words and spirit of the constitution of the time, unilaterally suspended the constitution of Western Region, May 29, 1962. And then
Mr.
that was
Tony,
the point.
Sorry for interjecting you.
Yes.
I apologize for that. I am getting a different vibe from your argument, and I have a follow-up question because from what I'm getting, I'm also reading. Okay, right. Okay, you have 3 minutes so I can go to Mr. Lawale.
Hold on. If you let me land, I say we need to find out what the ailment is. I was building up to how we got to 1999 Constitution, because you see, we've been working on this matter since the very year. In 3 weeks from the introduction of the 1999 Constitution, some of us who saw the danger ahead, because it didn't come in 99, it was from 79. It had already caused enough havoc. And even that 79 was coming from 67, when Murtala Muhammad fractured the 4 regions that were federating into what the unitarism they imposed. And so by 1975, he commissioned, a draft to take us back to unitarism. You heard him in the video where he was commissioning that committee that drew up that constitution, where he said the British worked with unitarism. We agreed on federalism, which got abandoned in 1966. And so what they did was to take us back to unitarism, in which the caliphate stepped into the shoes of the British that were operating the unitary system up till 1960, up to the time they handed over. And so you see that what we have done is we have been building on this wrong foundation that has now become responsible for everything that has gone wrong. If that is the problem, why can't we slow down for a moment and take a look at what the matter is? And we who are saying we must stop now and solve the problem, otherwise the union is in dissolution, because you put our signature on the constitution by which our lands and our people are conscripted into a union of death. When in that preamble it says, we the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, having firmly and solemnly resolved to live in unity as indivisible, indissoluble country, do hereby make and give unto ourselves the following constitution. It is putting our signature on a document that took our sovereignty away. 25 years from that 1999, we're still arguing whether we should go and examine it or do something about it. And some people are going to election on the basis of that constitution.
Now,
And so we say we must stop now and go to transition. Like South Africa did with apartheid in 1990. Anything short of that, you may be talking about saving Nigeria. You may be talking about saving Nigeria. I'm concerned about saving the Nigerians that are trapped here. You remember Tunde Bakare and his Save Nigeria group. This was the same argument.
Yeah, Mr. Tony, we'll come back to it. Mr. Njenje Media, go ahead before we go to Mr. Veteran. Go ahead, please.
Now, my good brother Tony, I welcome you to this platform. It is always good to, I believe thousands of Nigerians are watching us now across the social media platforms, including Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Now, to the question he asked, obviously the problems we know. That Nigeria is not working is no longer news. How we arrived at this point is also known. Now, there are 2 points of divergence here. You and my dear brother as well, Lawale, both of you agree that there is need for Nigeria to have a new constitution. However, the question he asked is, how do you see that happening? I think the point of divergence here is how to make that happen. Are you going to go back to the National Assembly that have been the elected representatives? Without you saying anything, that is a capital total rejectamento from you. It's no. So the question is on this platform this night, how do you think that Nigerians should have a new constitution that is going to aid them to leapfrog without getting into the quagmire of who owns the right to give us a new constitution? If you recall, there was during Godswill Akpabio's birthday, Olisa Abakova SAN gave some, hint as to how the National Assembly will do that. I know I've had conversations with you privately where you totally disagree with that, actually. Now, the question is here, what is it that you are proposing in driving this national dialogue? How can Nigerians arrive to a point without bullets being fired that a new constitution can be bettered? That is, what is your prescription? Take it from that angle. Just in 3 minutes, give us your prescription. Then we'll go back to Olawole to also hear from him. Thank you.
What Olisa Abokaba was preaching is heresy in jurisprudence because he was quoting Ben Nwabweze from a 2011 postulation in which Ben Nwabweze was suggesting that the sovereignty of the people, as long as there's a government in place now, was in the hands of government that will make constitution like they made it in 1975-76. And I've had the privilege of confronting Professor Ben Nwabweze in that wrong theory of his in 2013, when he went to molest President Jonathan, who was listening to us for what to do, about convening a meeting that will bring the nationalities to decide the 2 questions of whether they want to continue in the union and on what terms, through a transition like South Africa did in 1990. We're not asking those in government house to go home. We're saying, let us accept that this constitution was not made by us. Let us then accept that we need to ease out the one that is not working and replace it with something else. Let us also accept that sovereignty belongs to the people from whom the government derives all its powers and authority. That is, the power to make constitution is called constituent powers. I'm not telling you what Tony Nadi thinks. I'm telling you the jurisprudence of the matter, because after I had reason to confront Professor Ben Nwabweze publicly in 2013, when he had gone to canvassed the wrong situation as a position to President Jonathan. The media of the time that was alive to that debate called a debate between the two sides to say who has authority to make constitution between the people and the government in the manner Nwabweze was saying and in the manner we were saying. After that debate, the Vanguard newspaper published the outcome in 11 pages in 2013. From what came out, Nwabweze's position collapsed so badly that he called a press conference to reverse that situation, that earlier position. That was what Obong Victor Atta was reading out on the floor of the Lagos Colloquium of Patriots the other day. He reversed himself on that position, and then we went on from there for Lisa Bakaba to come in 2023 to be quoting the prescription of Nwabweze in 2011 after Nwabweze had recanted in 2013 was something we couldn't take, and we had to write a public disclaimer and a rebuke to say himself and Ozekome, Olisa Bakoba and Ozekome are wrong in what they are trying to sell. The sovereignty of the people has not passed to National Assembly because they were elected to make law. Their mandate is for lawmaking and not for constitution making. And the process is the 5-point proposition we put on the table since 2020 to say, let us accept we have this problem. Let us accept we're going to solve this problem. Let us suspend any discussion about further elections under this constitution. Let us then go into the two-stage procedure to work out what will replace. That was all. And the government is carrying on as if nothing is happening. They are making budget.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. We'll come to Mr. Olawale. Sorry, Njenje Media. Like I said, I'm getting a different vibe, and thank you, Njenje Media, again for putting that. Mr. Olawale, part of the Patriot discussion was having a referendum commission who will call for this to carry out a referendum on the new constitution. I agree. There is no doubt that we need a referendum commission going forward. Agreed. Also, the National Assembly. I checked it out. The National Assembly does not have power in respect of this constitution. They can rectify, they can amend, they make laws, but the people. So, who is responsible? Is it the executive or the legislative arm to create this referendum commission and kickstart this referendum for a new constitution? Thank you. The floor is yours. You're muted, sir. You have to unmute yourself, sir. You're muted, sir. Thank you.
You're muted back again.
You're muted back again. Your system seems to be muting itself back.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's okay now. We can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you for this. This is fundamental to the development of the country. Without what we are discussing today, there can never be development, peace, stability, cohesion in Nigeria. Because the Constitution of Nigeria is everything about Nigeria. And Constitution, by its name, is made by the constituents of a country. That is the people. But in the case of Nigeria, given the nature of Nigeria, by the federating units, which essentially are ethnic nationalities or nationalities that make up the country. You have to come together, through a means, and then fashion a constitution that is debated, negotiated, and agreed by them. And having done that, the people who have right to vote at a referendum, that is the citizens of Nigeria. But let's look at strategic steps to be taken. under the present situation. It's not so much about talking about ideals. We could say and debate the issue of the government itself is a fruit of a poisonous tree. We can say all of that, but the reality today is that by the dint of elections, there is well, either rigged or whatever, there is a government in place. By the fact of the election of the people or the electors, the electorate, the present system of governance system has come to be in reality. Therefore, to change what you have now, we have to deal with that faulty constitution, which is in essence a decree. Because at the foundation of the 1999 constitution, that's called the Nigerian Constitution, is a decree promulgation by military government, which is an aberration. You don't decree a constitution into existence. But what happened in a rush, in a circumvention of the will of the Nigerian people, was that the Salami Abubakar regime hurriedly decreed a prohibited, provision of other previous constitution, and then decreed it into existence. To the extent that those elected on the basis of that did not even see the provision of that constitution before they were elected. You can see all the faults in all of that. Because that constitution came into existence on the night of May 29, 12 midnight of May 29, when in actual fact, those who were elected, to run under that constitution have already been elected. So that is a fault. That is a problem with the foundation of the constitution that you have. In which case nobody, own up or really acceded to the ownership of that constitution, because every constitution, if in real sense of it, must be owned by the people through their vote. That's a referendum, yes or no, after the debate of the Constituent Assembly. In a federation like this, the first thing to do is to set up a Constituent Assembly of elected representatives of nationalities and other groups or interests in the country. But the foundation of it is the nationality. Igbo people, Yoruba people, Chief people, Efik people, Hausa, Fulani, the divergent or the diverse nationality in Nigeria, because we are not one in Nigeria, and we have been living differently for thousands of years before the British came together and forcefully amalgamated us together. Therefore, it was essential for the peoples, the nationalities, to be allowed to debate and agree on it, and then own it by the election or the vote of the citizens at a referendum. That's the two processes you can have. The other may just be revolutionary. The other may be revolutionary where there is insurrection, and that was attempted through the SNC, the Sovereign National Conference. We can have a revolutionary procedure to it, where some ideologues come together and take power and then change the constitution through a referendum. You still have to go through a referendum. Even through revolutionary means, the people must vote for it. The people is central. The people, at least the citizens now, must vote at a referendum. So the referendum is key. And there are two levels of referendum in constitution making. One is the direct referendum and the indirect referendum. A constituent assembly put together legitimately and democratically, is an indirect referendum. It could stop at that level. The making of constitution could stop at that level. If you want to, if the country chooses to do that, at the level of the indirect referendum, which is constituent assembly, is debated, there is a draft, it comes back to the assembly, and then the assembly proclaim it. There's a proclamation, just as in the case of the US Constitution of 1776. They could proclaim. However, they could go forward and say, well, let citizens vote yes or no, having debated this and publicized it. So that is the route, the most peaceful, most realistic. But in the case of Nigeria, you have a constitution that has foreclosed referendum. That is the election of a constitution by the people. The Section 8 and Section 9 of the 1999 Constitution foreclose that aspect. Unlike Brexit in Britain, where the people can go and do referendum, there is no provision for referendum in a Nigerian Constitution. It is closed off. So the first thing to do, realistically, is to proceed either through executive power of Section 5 of that poisonous fruit, 1999 Constitution, to proceed. The president can send an executive bill to that same National Assembly. All these things will not come easy. The people must put pressure. It is a battle, it's a struggle, it's even a revolution. But that is the only way out now, except through coup, military coup. It's only a military coup again that can change. So the president can proceed using his powers under Section 5 of the 1999 Constitution to generate an executive bill to say that the people, there should be a provision in the 1999 Constitution that can provide for the people to give unto themselves through a referendum a people's democratic constitution. That's Section 5. The powers of the executive powers of the president, sending bill. And the National Assembly also can also, through its Section 4, I am not a lawyer, but this is my thought, can also a legislative bill to say, well, there is a necessity now. We need to open up for the people to give on, because the National Assembly cannot give you a constitution. It can only make laws from the provision of the 1999 Constitution or amend it. From what exists now, the National Assembly cannot give the country a constitution. It can only make law. And a law is different from a constitution. Why a constitution is the ground norm of the agreement of the peoples of a country. A law is made, to govern the day-to-day activity of a country based on the provisions of a country. And that is why the Constitution will never say that any law made or even policy that is contrary to the provision of this Constitution shall be null and void to the extent of the contravention to that Constitution. Therefore, therefore, the national, you need to listen to this step. These are practical, very simple steps that can take you to the El Dorado of getting a people. What we are facing today is to say, how do we provide for Nigeria a people's constitution that will create stability, peace, cohesion, and development? And what exists in a realist sense is that, one, that I've said, executive bill from president; two, whoever the president is, it does not matter here; two, legislative bill, or a private member bill stating that National Assembly, this has caused us chaos, there is insecurity in the country, there is poverty, there is kidnapping and the rest, there is incohesion. Therefore, we need a constitution that can bring in harmony, and that also will be entertained by the National Assembly. But power corrupts. An absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's the problem, because those who are in power today may see it as a suicide mission. Therefore, the onus on you and I is to go back to the Nigerian people, the masses and the citizens, and then begin to do political education on how to proceed
Mr.
to this
Lawole,
and the significance of that.
Mr. Lawole, let me quickly interject here. Thank you very much for that submission. Let me quickly interject here. Ideally here, like Mr. Tony Nadi said, that there should be a meeting of ethnic nationalities. You repeated the same thing. That is your own proposition. Now, two of you are proposing here that for this to happen, for this new constitution to happen, that there ought to be a representation from the ethnic nationalities. Now, the question
in a constituent assembly,
it's a nomenclature.
A constituent assembly.
It's a nomenclature. It's the name. It's stylized. Whether you call it constituent assembly, whether you go back to. But the prominent question here is, how do we now go to the people to say, give us representation? I'm playing the devil's advocate here, by the way. We're going back to the people, say, give us representation, whereas there are already representation from the same people, three of them from each state, in terms of the the Senate. On the other hand, the lower chamber, you have them, some 6, some 10, some 12. So the question some people would then ask, if we have these people already paying, that humongous amount of money is being spent on, can't they be converted into those constituent assembly or whatever nomenclature we choose to call them, to sit down and discuss? And if we say again, we can go and get people, it will now come back to when Tony probably speaks. In 2014, Nigeria had a National Assembly under Goodluck Jonathan, yet they went in and picked individuals again from ethnic nationalities to come together and to give Nigeria a pathway, which sadly, I must note, appeared to have amounted to nothing, a mere effort in futility. So the question is, if you have this National Assembly, why would Nigerians agree to go again to the people and pick? Because these individuals already there are from ethnic nationalities. I want both of you to be same. 2 minutes, and I give 2 minutes.
Let me just quickly educate on that. I need to educate. You know, those elected into the National Assembly are essentially elected for the purpose of making laws and amending laws. The Constitution, that same Constitution that is poisonous, makes it clear they are elected for the purpose of lawmaking and amending laws. It will become unconstitutional and illegal for them to undertake to take the place of the people, because no constitution is given by an arm or organ of government. They are agents of the people. The Constitution, in giving constitution, you go directly to the sovereigns for the purpose of constitution making, and it must be clear, because they will have to elect their representative different from those in government, because the executive, they are to execute what is made in terms of law. The legislators are to amend and then to make laws and amend. They can't do more than that. But it also is a specialized thing where there must be an assembly, maybe a conference, maybe whatever, specially created, initiated for the purpose of giving the country a constitution. You can't mix it. In 2014, Goodluck Jonathan, preparing to give the country a people's constitution, created or facilitated the 2014 National Conference. I was a delegate at that conference. As a matter of fact, most of the major work before the conference was done by some of us in terms of putting template. We disagree at the point because for you to have a people's constitution, for us, what we know is that people must be elected to such conference. But the kind of election we had was an election was not as profound as what you had in 1987, the Babangida process, for instance. I have done comparison among the processes in constitutional exploration of Nigeria, and I saw that even the Babangida process, the Babangida that we criticize, that process was deeper because it was called a zero party election, where people were actually elected, people debated, people campaigned, and then people were led to go to represent their constituency for the purpose of making a constitution. It was not deep enough. We had done a paper too, arising from the conclusion of that confab. We had done a paper to say, look, you may have to go into a more profound process of electing people to come and do a new constitution for us so that you can create legitimacy. Because the degree of legitimacy in the constitution matters. And the whole problem with the 1999 constitution is the lack of legitimacy, the ownership of the people. Nobody is owning up to it except the military and those who are beneficiaries of the constitution today. Therefore, in getting a people's constitution, you must deepen the degree, the level of its legitimacy, that is ownership of the people. And that is what is missing. But you cannot, you dare not ask legislature, National Assembly, to go and do constitution when they have not been elected for that purpose. It will become an aberrative and then it will become unconstitutional. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Njenje. I want to pick two things Mr. Veteran said and throw it on the table of Mr. Tony Nandi in respect to the Referendum Commission. He said, I'm starting to be corrected, Mr. Veteran, if I'm wrong with what he said. This can be done by either executive bill or by the National Assembly, which they are not willing to do. Now, in Section 68 and Section 110...
A private individual bill, private member bill, can settle a bill.
Section 68 and Section 110... Sorry. Okay. Section 68 and Section 110 give power to the people to recall their legislators that represent them. Mr. Tony, don't you think, in your own opinion, that if we take this campaign to the people in terms of having a referendum commission, that we should go to our legislators in each of our constituency that we need a referendum commission, and failure for them to come to terms with us, they will be recalled? Don't you think that will be effective going forward in terms of getting a new constitution? Mr. Tony, the floor is yours. Thank you. We can't hear you, Mr. Tony. You are not muted. I don't know why we can't hear you. You are not muted. No, can you speak now, please? No, we still cannot hear you. We can't hear you, Mr. Tony. You are not muted. You are not muted. Maybe mute it and unmute it again. I don't know. There's we still cannot hear him. You are muted now. Can you unmute yourself again and try to speak, please? We still can't hear him. Mazi, I use the floor to you. Thank you. We can't hear Mr. Tony.
Yeah, Mr. Nadi, you may have to go back. You may have to go out and come back in, so that let's see if we can hear you. You know, I'm still piggyback, I'm still trying to, because I want viewers and I want all of us sitting down here to leave this conversation and have a clear path in our minds as to what we could do. My question then will be, listening to Olaole, and I'm going to think, understanding that you were part of the 2014 confab. Now, let's assume, and this is the reality of Nigeria today, the National Assembly would always say, I said this, I recall in the last, in the 10th Assembly of Lawan, is it the 9th? I think the 9th Assembly or so, is it? Yeah. And when they called for people to submit memoranda as to how the constitution will be amended, I recall I told a friend who said, let's gather together and submit. I said, do not waste your time because it amounts to nothing. And sadly, it amounted to nothing. Now they are in the same plank again, trying to regurgitate what has been done before. If we all understand that there is nothing the National Assembly can do, Mr. Olawale, I'm now asking you, how long should Nigerians wait if there is no executive powers, as you said, executive bill or law to allow for that constituent assembly to be created or referendum commission to be created? Understanding that this is not going to happen, what do you advise and what is expected of Nigerians in the absence of that? What can Nigerians do if these two things are not happening? I think Tony is back. Answer that before Tony comes in.
We're on the verge of enforcing the will of the people to have a constitution.
How? How do we enforce it? Are we going to carry arms?
The conference, March 18, there was a huge consensus that the country needs, even from people in government and people who are in past government leaders, that we need a democratic people's constitution, a new constitution, and not amendment. That was the consensus of that. And that should be taken forward to the presidency and to the National Assembly. It is now left for the Patriots mobilizing other interests to engage government effectively, and that is ongoing. And I think that the situation of the country, which is the existential condition of the country itself, will call people in government to question or to alert that things are not right and that we can't continue. Because even Tamboa, who is at the National Assembly and former governor, agreed. You had all of them who are drawn and said that even Sanwo-Olu all agree that we need to put in place. But you see, the problem for us in the past, Tony Nandi here could recall that we have done some processes in the past. We took to court under Chief Anyaoku. There is a group called Pronaco, which I spoke for throughout. And the problem we encountered at that level was the fact that those in government refused to buy in at that time. And then we went to court, and court sat on it. I think it was Tony Nadi who was prosecuting that. And the Nigerian court sat on it. One justice, this woman, Adamawa, sat on it. But now there seems to be some momentum among the political class because of the kidnapping and insecurity and all of it. They are also feeling it. And all kinds of ethnic clashes that we may need to give the people some opportunity to do that. And in resolving this, the National Assembly will have to amend Section 8 and Section 9. That's the cross of it, to allow for what you call referendum commission or constituent assembly for the people to give unto themselves a constitution. That is the process that we have to see through now, through a bill that will come.
How?
And
My question remains how? My
that is
question
what
remains
I am
how
telling
do we
you.
amend?
That is what I am telling you. First is that a bill to that effect goes to the National Assembly. That's step one. Two is that National Assembly takes it as part of the amendment process going on, and then debate it and come back with 2/3 from the State House of Assembly. And then they said that this thing, the majority has accepted. Then you open up Section 9 and Section 8 of the Constitution by inserting a new provision which allows for the people to give unto themselves their own constitution that they can hold through a referendum or constituent assembly. Simple. The moment you have that inserted, and this will also go with pressure, then it's doable. It's a simple process, but you have to understand it, because the present people in government will not do anything that they think that anybody can go to court and stop them. So the only process that you can force them to take is that a bill comes. When the bill comes that you need to amend, they debate it and they take it forward to the State Houses of Assembly, and they come back. When it comes back with majority, that is 24 hours of assembly has already approved it, then they will come and debate it, and then it becomes a provision of the 1999 Constitution as amended. That is when you can start to say, okay, let us create through a democratic means a constituent assembly commission or a referendum commission. That is the process. It's so simple. It's as simple as anything. But you won't do that without a pressure from the people showing their interest in that matter. So we need a lot of advocacy so that can happen. And I know that the Patriots can initiate that. We're about engaging the National Assembly, and yes, that is the process we are following now. And that process.
Thank you very much. So, two key things you said, that this is not going to. There's not going to be any movement from the National Assembly, from the leadership that benefits from the quagmire Nigeria is in today, without pressure and advocacy. That is a very good point you have made. So let's move to Mr. Nadi. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Olawale. So, Mr. Tony Nadi, on this point, if we come to, we know the elephant in the room. Who bails the cat, and how do we bail this cat?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
We've wasted the last 1 hour, 12 minutes completely. The only other thing I should have done is just to go do something else with my time. And that was what I was talking about as we were planning the program, to say, are we now ready to come to listen to those who have worked on this matter, who have expertise, who are in direct contact with the peoples of the land that they are talking about, who are in direct engagement with that constitution that is the source of all this problem? If we're prepared to listen to what they say should be done now, then we make out the time. If it's 30 minutes, we will come and examine what they say. Let it now be that we didn't understand or we don't agree. But if we come and we just spend the entire time going from one part of the forest to the other, the constitution that they say they have to go to draw power from to amend Section 9 and Section 8 in order to come to Section 4 and all that nonsense. We are saying we've not made any constitution. We are saying that what has to happen is that we acknowledge that what we have cannot remain basis of the union. We are saying that we don't also want anarchy, and therefore a transition in which the people in government house will remain. A process will be initiated that has been spelled out, that will draw from the sovereignty of the people. Which constitution are they talking about going to amend? The one we made or the one they imposed in the manner that makes it impossible for us to get anything off them? Why has it not been done in the last 25 years? All this story of how it can be done through the window. And so we come back to where are we now? That was why I was building up to what the problem is, so that we can know what we're looking for, how to resolve. And then we go to the options available for how we resolve them. We had constitutions that define the union. In the first place, anytime you hear we need a new constitution for Nigeria, that person saying it is illiterate on the subject matter. What we have to do is to work out new constitutional arrangements. There are two different things. The colloquium in Lagos had said that the two options. The chairman, Emeka Anyaoku, began with saying that there are two options before Nigeria now: to adopt the 2014 conference and turn it into, make a constitution out of it, or to convene some kind of constituent assembly to draft a new constitution for the people. It was a journey to nowhere that's already wrong. And I was in that meeting, and we did indicate to them why it cannot be so, because they are only talking about writing a new constitution. But if you want to know what we have to do now, let us go to the preamble of the 1999 Constitution that says, we the peoples of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, meaning the constituent components, not any group of people you see in Ocean or any group of people dancing in Borokiri in Port Harcourt. It is the owners of the sovereignties that were confiscated in 1914, conscripted into the Union, that have never been allowed to discuss whether they want to be in Union or how they want to be in that Union. Not different from what happened in 1999, where Absalom Abaka threw up something that they labeled Constitution with no reference to anybody other than their friends they gathered in some beer parlor. Now, that is we the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So there was never a day Yoruba was invited, Ijaw invited to come to submit their lands and their people and decide the terms on which they will be union. You go to the second line that says, having firmly and solemnly resolved to live in unity as indivisible and indissoluble. That portion tells you that they will have to meet, discuss, and agree to be in union, and then determine the terms of that union. That is where you begin to talk about the formations. Are we to be in 36 states or in 10 regions or 4 regions? Are we to have local government areas as a tier of government? Are we to have state items of exclusive? That is where the owners of the sovereignty will have to determine it by themselves. Then you then document what they have discussed in the final line that says, do hereby make and give unto ourselves the following constitution. If you follow my train of thoughts, you see that I'm still talking about that preamble. Those 3 compartments of falsehood. That is the contention of the owners of Nigeria, that it is a lie that we, the owners, that the constituent components were ever invited to any discussion. It is a lie that they agreed to be in union forever. It is a lie that they made a constitution. If you want to know how to resolve that, you go to section 14.2a that says, even as disputed as that constitution is, section 14.2a says that sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. Therefore, it's telling you that it is only when the people that will federate in Nigeria have sat down and agreed among themselves and made a constitution accordingly, that you can have the instrument by which the union can be convened and governance can be provided with all the limits and rules set by the owners of the enterprise, the people, just like memo and articles of a company and the owners of the company. It is never the business of the hired management, which is what the government is to the enterprise Nigeria. The owners of the enterprise are those who could be countries of their own if Nigeria were not in place, if Nigeria was not occupying their space. Are you not surprised that people are waving flags in Western Nigeria that could be 60 million people? Would they be too small to go into to go off on their own and pursue their best interests? You go to the eastern side, it will be a country of more than 70 million people. You go to the middle belt, the same thing. These people are saying this union, as imposed on us since 1914, is choking us. And they're all waving flags. Some are with guns. We're the ones standing between them and the other things they could do to take their portion and leave the union of death that Nigeria has become.
Mr. Tony.
Our moderators, both of you, I doubt if any of you is in Nigeria today. There are people who are here who don't know whether they will live to tomorrow morning because Fulani is upon them, about to kill them. There are people whose electricity have destroyed all of what they are doing. And these are all flowing from that instrument. And the people have been shouting to say, can we slow down and go and sort out this problem? What needs to be done is to acknowledge the problem for what it is. And then I was talking about the preamble. I also talked about section 14.2a. Then let us see what happened in 1999. Decree number 24, by which Absalom Abaka imposed that instrument, told the story of what they did. They said they formed a committee called Constitution Debate Committee that went around to talk to some people, and that most people wanted a return to 1979 arrangement. And so that they've taken the report, they have added the things to it, subtracted from it, and now passing what is left into into Constitution to be called the 1999 Constitution, to come into effect on a certain day, 29th of May 1999. That is the story of how the Constitution came. And so the proof of the fact that the peoples of Nigeria had no hand at all in the document they call Constitution, and that now took all their sovereignty and all their rights to their economic assets and the right to defend themselves even when they are being killed, the right to do their infrastructure, the right to govern them, to elect who will govern them, because there's an exclusive list that creates an INEC sitting in Abuja. You saw what happened. If you go to 20 elections, you are going to have exactly what you had the last time. And any process.
Sorry for interjecting. Sorry for interjecting. I apologize for interjecting. The point you've made clearly highlights the illegitimacy, whatever it is of the 1999 Constitution, yes, with Amendment 2011. It's not picking up on the screen because of the whatever I'm using in the background, or it's not picking. The camera is not picking it.
No problem. I have
now,
a copy here.
I'm going to highlight a comment here.
Yes.
By Bonaventure Oti.
Look, I've not landed. My train of thought is being disrupted.
Okay,
we might as well leave you to discuss with all the other people.
Go ahead.
We are doing some. You are bringing people who are not doing anything. We are doing something that has been placed on the table, and you are bringing people who are not doing anything. Will you let me land what I'm saying?
Okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. Respectfully.
Now, we are saying that what we need to do is to accept that we have not made this constitution and that we need a replacement for it. To realize that the Union of Nigeria is a federation. That's the only way it can be one political union. And if anybody thinks it can be kept by force of arms because they are pointing guns at everybody, then the owners of the sovereignty, I'm reporting to us now that we are closer to having those who are choking here, those who are being killed in these numbers, those whose economic assets have been shared out amongst people who invade them as oil block and port concession and bitumen allocation and limestone allocation. those who own those lands, who have been waiting for this length of time to get the management team that is sitting in Abuja to listen to them, to sit down and rework the basis of their union that was truncated since 1966 by Murtala Mohammed and his co-travelers. And so, where we are is that the 5-point proposition of Ninas, which did not fall from the sky, you had my Mr. Kunuyi talking about the processes that have been undergone all these many years. The only problem is that another election will soon come. We're in 2023 now, or 2024 now. By 2025, candidates will begin to emerge just because we have not stopped to sit down and listen. The colloquium in Lagos, in which Tambuwal was pointing them to National Assembly, 36 states, the votes in that National Assembly is already rigged against us. You can't take one alphabet. You can't add one alphabet outside what the caliphate wants. And they want to drag us to that place because they have they control 72% of what will happen in the place. So you can't even introduce, no matter who, whether it's Akpabio that is president. So it's not as simple as, let's go and tell, in any event, how is it the management of the company I own that will now have to decide the contents of memo and articles for me? Because what the memo and articles is to the company is what the constitution is to the country. The owners of the enterprise are the units that will be countries of their own if Nigeria was not occupying their space. And that is those are the groups I speak for in the process by which we have brought them into an alliance to reject this constitution, an alliance to reject the caliphate and the willing tools that are enforcing this constitution against them. And they have made out their draft constitutions to leave the union if we can't find common ground. We are the ones persuading everybody to take it easy so that we can get to the kind of transition that South Africa went to in 1990. Was it by amendment that the apartheid constitution was cured? Did they not have a parliament? Did they not have a government? Why are we so daft? Why are we so unwilling to reason? Why are we willing to shed the blood of people in this manner? The politicians that will go to election, we are talking 2027 now, under this constitution, they are actually expecting that those who are being killed are going to sit back so that they can go to another election by which they will renominate themselves, re-elect themselves, swear again to defend and uphold this atrocity. I tell you,
Mr. Nadi.
Hold on. I'm saying that the 5-point proposition of Ninas is simple. Let us accept, number one, let us accept that the grievances, the constitutional grievances flowing from this constitution is the reason there are agitations across Nigeria. The Niger Delta is up in arms. The Yoruba is up in arms. You saw them telling anybody. The Middle Belt is upside down. In the eastern side is Biafran flag. Let us accept that it is this truncation of the federal basis of the union that brought us to that. Let us accept, everybody is in acceptance of that now. This is why they're talking about new constitution. But we say to them, in correction, new constitutional arrangements, because that's where you now begin to talk about the discussions that must happen. Because the British evaded that discussion in 1914. They took the treaties they had from the various colonies and the trading treaties and protection treaties. They consolidated them in 1914 into what became Nigeria without talking to the owners of the sovereignty. From that time to date, there's no difference between what happened in 1914 and what the soldiers did in 1999.
Number two, as to the propositions, number two, you've said number one.
Yes, number one, we hear. Let
accept
us
the constitutional. You said number one is accept the constitutional grievances. Number two,
accept that it is the constitutional arrangements we have that are responsible for all the grievances in the land that have become agitations and instability everywhere. That's number one. Number two, to accept that we have to decommission that fraud wholesale. Number three, in order to get it done sooner than later, that we have to commit to not going to another election under that constitution. The people in government house will remain in a transitional capacity, like Frederick de Klerk and co. remained in South Africa at the time they accepted, after 80 years. This is just 25 years. After 80 years, apartheid was introduced in 1910. ANC was formed in 1912. They began to reject it every day. It became more worrisome to the point where Frederick de Klerk now accepted that this constitution can no longer carry this union, because everywhere you turn, somebody is about to kill the other person. And so they made an announcement that they were going to decommission the apartheid constitution wholesale. They went into a meeting. They became a limited government to allow that discussion that must happen between the owners of the sovereignty. So that is what item 4 is in that hour. The item 3 is the commitment to put away everything about the election. That's the only time the politicians will have to come. If you don't do that.
Number 4.
Yes, number 4 is the modalities, the two-stage, that to commit to a two-stage modality in which you identify the units that will federate. These 36 states you have, they were all created by decree. I'm supposed to come from a place called Abia State. I don't know what Abia State is. I have no affiliation or affinity to Abia State because it was done by those who wanted to fracture us into unworkable and impotent units, because they took all the rights, all the economic assets, having fractured the regions that own those assets, loaded them into the exclusive list that made them property of this illicit federal government that emerged upon the collapse of our federation. So number 4 is that two-stage procedure that will satisfy what you have in that preamble, that will satisfy 14.2a, identify the Yoruba. They will, in the first stage, sit down in Ibadan or wherever they choose, Akure, to ask their people in a mini, whatever they process it, it must be the Yoruba people. You know, you hear people, you hear peoples. When you say people of Nigeria, any group you see in Oshodi Market is the people of Nigeria. When you hear peoples of Nigeria, you are now discussing the nationalities that constitute Nigeria. They are the ones who have to decide in that first stage that they want to federate. Yoruba will decide at home. Ijo will decide at home. Igbo will decide at home. Benin will decide at home. Thief like that in that first layer. Because it is there that they will say it is in this formation we want to be. In the eastern side, Urobo, Ishekiri, Anang, the Efik will be discussing whether they want to be, one federating unit. They will work out their terms, like our organization has worked out a charter of relationships that will be processed amongst them. It's already done to the point of being, that is the next thing is to take it through the ratification process, where Ogoni will look at it, Ishekiri will look at it, Urobo will look at it, and they will say, yes, with this, we are good to go. It is that in that first stage. The middle belt will do the same. They're already doing it, whether the government comes along, because sovereignty belongs to the people. So it is in the second stage.
I haven't captured the 4B.
The second stage in that two-stage procedure is now where they come with their charters in their hands, having decided what their minimum demands will be, their minimum conditions to be in a union. It is in that second stage that they will tell those who have imposed Sharia that, look, if we're going to be in one political union, we must find answers to Sharia. We don't want to have anything to do with a civilization that requires you to kill me as the infidel. I won't be in one political union with you. Feudalism, in which people are telling us to our faces that they are born to rule us. And therefore, we are only but slaves in their imagination. And you can do anything you like with your slave, including killing, including selling, including just, the slave has no right to anything. Under this constitution that the caliphate imposed on all of us, we're just slaves. That's why they can kill and maim and loot and share our economic assets to our faces. And so it is in that negotiation that has become inevitable now that will sort out all of that. So, okay, if you put away Sharia and put away feudalism, maybe we then begin the discussion of the terms of the union, whether we want to be in 10 formations.
The terms of the union, is that the last out of the 5 points?
When all those things have been discussed, The fifth point is where we say a formal announcement by the government, by the president, whoever can speak on behalf of government, a formal announcement, the type that Frederick de Klerk did in 1990, to say to the whole world that Nigeria has been suffering and falling apart all this while with danger everywhere. We have now come to where we have to slow down a little and sort out our matter.
Okay.
It is in that one. It is in that announcement, a time-bound announcement of a transition. So that announcement will cover items 1, 2, 3, 4. Government saying, gentlemen, we now agree that this constitution is the source of our problems. Gentlemen, okay, we agree we're going to do away with it wholesale. We agree we will not go to another election until we have sorted it out. And it is going to be done by the peoples of Nigeria in the formations they've agreed to federate. Now, then we go into it.
Okay. I honestly, I think you've made your point, and this is what we've been waiting for. Let me summarize the point here. Yeah. Now we have two of you, these two eloquent gentlemen here, where Mr. Veteran Che Olawale argues that we can achieve this through advocacy and pressure. Now you come in here to say that Ninas has worked out. He's
discussing a totally different.
Hold on. I'm coming.
No. You have missed the point in thinking.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No.
He's discussing a totally different transaction.
No, I'm not.
He's discussing to write a new constitution. I'm saying we have no union. We have no constitution.
You are in this case. You are saying this is your pathway. Let me name it that way. You're saying your pathway to getting where we are, where we want to go, is to first say that Nigerians, or rather accept what you call the constitutional grievances by the Nigerian people, or the constituent.
The union dispute. The union dispute,
yes. And two is to decommission whatever we have to do.
Commit to the decommissioning.
Decommissioning, yes.
Announcement of that.
Now, and the third one is that there is not going to be any election. That they must commit to no election until the matter is sorted out.
Yes.
Then, and again, commit to two-stage. One, what you refer to as two-stage modality. One is to identify the nationalities, or whether we call them nationalities, the owners of Nigeria, the owners of the sovereignty, whatever the nomenclature that is. Then, and to produce a charter of association.
That is internal to the region. Yoruba will do their own at home. It's not
exactly. No. These nationalities will produce that, yes. Which will now lead to the formal announcement of all the agreements reached. Punct. And that's what it is. The elephant in the room remains.
Hold on. Yes. Which will bring us to the point where an announcement is made. I sent you those 5 points.
Yes.
Announcement is the first one. Acknowledgement. The second one is
I'm coming to a question that I will need you to. This is the summation I have done.
Hold on. You say boom as if it's finished. You are saying boom as if it's finished. We are saying acknowledge that this is the problem. Commit to solving it.
Can I leave at this point?
The third one is commit to no further election.
Sorry, please wait.
The third one is
unintellectualistic.
Please wait.
This is not the way to moderate an educational program.
No, we are. Sorry, Veteran Che.
This is a rally. Are we doing a rally here?
No.
We're not doing a rally.
No. What?
We are trying to look at.
Neither am I here to debate with people who have no.
I am here.
Neither am I here to debate with people who have no template.
Gentlemen,
I'm not here to debate with people who have no
template. Please, let's apply decorum. Please, let's apply.
This was why I said I don't have this kind of time. I don't have this kind of time to come debate with people who are just scratching their heads.
Okay.
We have
Please,
something
let's
solid
go.
on the table. If we can't listen to it, then we can leave other people to go and discuss whatever they are discussing. We carry on with what we are doing. We don't need any
sorry,
government or anybody to agree with
gentlemen,
us.
I might have to mute the big stick here. Sorry, I might have to mute the big stick here
Is
to
the
mute
process
both of
going to
you.
jump from heaven?
Sorry,
Is the
I may
process
have
of
to mute. Sorry, I may have to mute. Sorry, gentlemen, I muted both of you for a reason. Tony, please, both of you. Now, the reason why we want to have this conversation is this conversation was necessitated at the backdrop of the eminent Nigerian, that's the Patriots, where they, I think many of you, if you go back to Njenje Media, you will see that live stream there. They raised salient questions as to how Nigeria is going to resolve this problem.
One moment. The outcome of the colloquium in Lagos, the Patriots colloquium, they had a 3-point communique. They said the constitution of Nigeria is illegitimate.
Yes.
They said it is of illicit origin, flawed origin. They then said that no amount of amendment will cure the situation.
Yes.
And so that illegitimacy, if you were to ask from which date, it is from the 1999 it came. So they agree with us completely on that we don't have any, it's a fraud.
That means there is a point of agreement.
Secondly, they say because it came from falsehood, no meeting was held. And then the National Assembly cannot be the venue for curing that because they're a product of that same
Mr. Tony, sorry,
yes,
I have to come in.
Mr.
Tony,
hold on.
I want us to take those three
gentlemen,
as we go forward.
Gentlemen.
So now, if we, sorry, electricity here.
Go ahead.
Please, gentlemen, you know what we're going to do? Because I actually like the point that these, the point of divergence has been cleared. We know where both of you agree on. However, there is still the big elephant in the room. I don't know if Tony is coming back now. The question is, if we look at what Tony has alluded to, the question that I wanted to ask him is, yes, it is good for Nigerians to go somewhere, the ethnic nationalities to go and articulate their grievances. It is good for us to say we are demanding for no election to be held. The big elephant in the room remains. How are these going to be enforced? And that's where I needed you. If you can do this in 2 minutes, then we can go back to Olawale, please, in 2 minutes. How are these points, these 5 points you have raised, how are we going to push them to reality?
I sent you and the moderator the communique from the NCEF, the National Christian Elders Forum, the group that has General Danjuma, General Lepot, and all of those who were Christians in that episode in which Gowon led all the others to go and kill off over 5 million people by his own account, by Gowon's own account. Those people who participated in that mayhem, they are now on the side.
Okay, you know what? I think since the internet kind of pushed him out, Mr. Olawale, can you come in here, please?
So sorry, okay. I might be disappointed at this kind of moderation. I think that we have not allowed Nigerians to really
hold on, Mr. Tony.
Have the opportunity to be educated on some of the critical issues. We cannot do shy dish or speak as if we are children. It's a power struggle. It's not something that you just voice. How are you going to facilitate it? Who convinces it? Is it him or his organization? There's a government, de facto government in place, either you like it or not. There's a constitution in place, either you like it or not. This sort of idealism and then playing to gallery will not take anybody anywhere. You proceed from what exists to the unknown. And I think that the process is clear. It's not by whipping sentiment or whatever. We want this thing done because these are the benefits. That is what we need to know. What are the significance of a new constitutional arrangement or a new constitution? Both are the same. We are writing a new constitution to create a new constitutional arrangement. Hello?
We can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. Yeah.
We are creating a new constitutional arrangement. In essence, we are writing a new constitution. You write a new constitution, you create constitutional, you will have to codify the document. But there must be who facilitates, who convenes. What is the convening authority? Is it the ethnic nationality that will just pick themselves somewhere? No. You can't do that. That is not possible. So what you need to do is to encourage or engage government to say we need to do this. And we can do it with what exists. So that they don't say it's unconstitutional.
Exactly
all what
the point.
He has proposed, all what he has proposed will just be dismissed and say it's unconstitutional. Nina, blah, blah, blah. From where to where? There are courts, there is a legislature, there is executive. You have to engage them. You engage them and say, look, this thing is doable, to allow the people to give unto themselves a new constitution. And in giving themselves a new constitution, they will have to work out a new constitutional arrangement that seems to be democratic. And that's what we are saying. What we are saying is that the people must be allowed through a referendum or constituent assembly to give unto themselves. It's not to say that some people will sit down somewhere. Nobody will allow that, because you do not control that force. You are not in power. You are not in government. Why do we need to do all this jingoism?
Why did that constitution say that power belongs to the people from whom government through that constitution would derive all its powers? Njenje, I think you've had a great day. You can carry on with him, please, so I can go do something else with my time. We can't be debating about something that is in black and white.
Please.
I told them I don't want to have this. We have no time to spare on this type of inanities. We have something that is clear. The constitution itself says sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria. Have you identified the people to now get them to do the process?
How do we proceed? Are you going to initiate the process?
How is that your business if you do not want to examine what we put on? We put something on the table.
Nobody will.
We put something on the table.
Let us do what
they can go ahead with whatever they are doing in the National Assembly. We carry on with what we are doing.
Realistic, not idealism.
Carry on with what we are doing. Can you see what I mean now?
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Veteran, Mr. Lawale, can please hold on. Mr. Tony, I'm going to highlight something. Two things first. Sorry. Thank you. First, what Tony said, I think most people addressing, most people think by now you made your case. What step in the implementation stage come next tomorrow? Then the other thing I want to highlight is this. I prepared this. You will be more familiar with this, Mr. Tony. It says, I'm going to put a question to you. It says the clean hands and the pure heart. You know the clean hands doctrine in law says represent honest moral behavior. So, Mr. Tony, this is my question, okay? I don't think any of us here disagree that, we all agree that we need a new constitution.
That's wrong.
Or even a new constitutional arrangement, both are the same.
Okay.
There's no
what do we need? Mr. Lawale,
a new constitutional arrangement will be codified in a constitution.
Mr. Lawale, please. We will get there. Mr. Tony.
Yes.
If we don't need a new constitution, Or maybe I'm not phrasing it right. What do we need?
We need new constitutional arrangements, because that is the one that
Which
will
So how do we go about?
allow the owners of the sovereignty to discuss
Okay,
whether they want to be in
okay,
union.
Mr. Tony, how
Njenje,
do we go about
let me tell you where the
implementing
problem
this?
is. Let me tell you
Yeah.
where it's not a problem of semantics. It's a real problem that has
I agree with you. Listen, listen, Mr. Tony.
It is
Mr. Tony,
because
Mr. Tony,
those operating
respectfully,
Nigeria,
Mr.
those
Tony,
operating Nigeria currently, they
Mr.
do
Tony,
not want to deal with the owners of the sovereignty. They've hijacked
Mr.
their
Tony,
sovereignty.
Mr. Tony, with due
Yes.
respect, we spoke
Yes.
privately, and we agree that there is a problem. We are not here to play. In our private conversation, I tell you how serious the matter is. To me, I usually don't put on tie and suit. I had to put on tie and suit today to have this discussion. But honestly speaking, but there is an issue at hand, and we need. I mean, first and foremost, yes, myself and Njenje Media, we're based in UK, but we come home. I come home every time. So
You are not here tonight, and there are people who are going to wake up tomorrow morning in the morgue.
I understand. Listen,
and we don't have forever to deal with that.
That is exactly. You see, you've hit the nail on the head, Mr. Lale. One second, Mr. Lale, Mr. Tony, you've hit the nail on the head. We don't have forever to wait to fix this thing. So how do we go about how do we kickstart this thing now? Because it's down to the people.
If those who are in the problem, listen, if those who are in the problem, if those who have this problem to solve, if they would do what the NCEF has done, they engaged us quietly for like a month, and they called a larger meeting to say, everybody come, let us examine what we all have, inviting only those who have concrete propositions, start to end, what needs to be done. By the time they examined all the options, they came out with that communique in which at point 7, read out what you have at point 7. That's the kind of thing all of those who agree that we have a problem to solve. Those are the kind of things, because we have something that is placed on the table that in 2020, we put out a constitutional force majeure with this 5-point proposition signed by 128 statesmen, including the former vice president of the country.
Let me highlight the point 7 up. This is point 7, if I'm correct.
Yes.
I'm going to read point 7. Sorry. The meeting noted the comment of the representative of Ninas at the press conference and agreed that the 5 propositions of the group aim at resolving the constitutional dispute in Nigeria should receive fresh consideration by ethnic nationality. Is that correct?
Yes. And then
so what you are saying is that
that was on the 16th of April. Then yesterday.
What you're saying, if I to summarize what you're saying is
update. Yeah, this was on the 16th that they said that. Between that 16th and yesterday, they had gone to bring all of those who were suggesting other things to them to say, these people have shown us something that can solve this problem. Can you come and all of us examine it all over again? Just yesterday. And by the time we finished, this same kind of thing we're discussing now, but they were a lot more organized, because they allowed ample time for us to present our own proposition, and then the other people had time to present their own propositions. At the end of just 3, the people that said let us go to 2014, the people that said let us go to 1963, the ones that said National Assembly, everybody was allowed to present their own, proposition in full. Then they came back to saying, having listened to all of this, we can find in this the reason the National Assembly cannot be called in unless the people have done something first. There's no role for the National Assembly to play tied to this constitution. Second, they have now set up even a larger meeting that will happen on the 17th of May, They are traveling all around, inviting those who have other propositions to come with what they have. That's the kind of thing we expect that those who want to interrogate, because if you ask people to come with what can be done in May of 2024, that does not depend on people who are going to say no, then it is a convergence of, you have to find a pathway, something you can interrogate to say, if all of us, will press for this within our rights, because that right to self-determination, that sovereignty that belongs to the people is already settled. So you can't, what has happened now is that Nigeria has hijacked the Nigeria of unitarism that has killed the federation we had before, has hijacked the sovereignties of the constituent components, and they are refusing to discuss with the owners of those sovereignties. And that is what is at issue now. In falling back to 2014, they want to go back to 2014 conference. That 2014 conference came as a result of our interactions with President Jonathan. At the time, Ijaw people had to call him into the discussion. That the agitation that have cost them so much blood seems to have an answer in this. He debated with them for a while. Eventually, we had to be called in because they were telling him what they had seen that would solve the problem. And then we trashed it out, and President Jonathan had the discipline, unlike what most people are doing today. A sitting president had the discipline to sit down and examine documents that took him quite some time. And he saw enough in it to set up a committee of those who will go to interrogate it further, because he is not a lawyer. And when they came back to him with what they came to the same conclusions as him, and then it became the basis of announcing that Okoromo committee. But by the time he was going towards that, the people who wanted to evade this discussion with the owners of the sovereignty again changed the modalities. The secretary to government at the time, Patriots, working with some elements in the dark background, they changed the modalities. And then we who were supposed to be the first in the arena said, no, we won't come to this charade because it will not solve the problem. Because in the terms of reference to that conference, they said that whatever be the decision of that conference will be integrated into the existing constitution. Again, the conference itself decided on the first decision they took on the floor of the conference was that they will not visit the foundation. It was them that said they will not. Jonathan convinced them to go to the foundation.
We are going to...
Can I be allowed to conclude what I'm saying so that we can see where we miss the way? The reason we are not going to touch
there are two processes.
Can we take a 2 minutes break?
If the next time I invite them to come to this matter, I say I won't come, it will be because of this nonsense going on now.
Gentlemen, please. Gentlemen, let's apply decorum here, please. Let's apply decorum here, please.
Convening authority. Who will be the convening authority?
Let's apply decorum.
No, hold on here. Electricity, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Lawale asked a question that I've been pushing to. Mr. Tony Nadi.
Yes.
Now, he asked a question, who will be, in all the 5 steps that you have listed, noting that the government, whichever government, whether this one or next one or whatever, lacks the legitimacy, right? Because of the 1999 constitution with which they operate. Mr. Lawale then is asking, who would then convene and work through all these you have outlined? How is the work plan going to look like?
Our contention, our quarrel is not with who is in government or how they emerge in government. That has never been. Even in 2007, when we went to court to say that the constitution was a fraud, he misreported. I was the one that filed that suit. I'm the one that can report on where it is. The Attorney General of Nigeria joined issues with us in court, and he admitted our claim. The judge found us unable to.
Who is going to?
Our quarrel is not.
No, sorry, Mr. Lawale.
The reason we are talking about transition. You can see I'm being interrupted. Njenje, if you cannot mute him, I will leave the meeting for both of you.
Please, can we
If
stop
you
the
cannot mute
interruption,
him,
guys?
one more interruption,
Mr.
this
Lawal,
meeting is
You are
at an
please.
taking
end.
on due time.
One more
You
interruption
are
from
taking
him,
on
this
due
meeting is
time.
at an end.
So, Mr. Lawal, please calm
Just
down.
sitting on
Let's, Tony, I asked you a point blank question. Who is going to? Because you know it's simple. You can do this in 1 minute without giving.
You see the problem. The question. The reason I asked you to read our 5-point proposition, which is with you there. It is with you there.
It's not
so that you
about
can
me
take it
reading
from
it,
what you have
Tony.
there.
Tony, I have engaged you for so many years. I know the point you're raising. Now we have Nigerians. Oh, hold on. We have Nigerians.
The reason it is the government. Our quarrel is not with the government of the day. If Jonathan had done this at the time we first before they disrupted,
but he didn't.
What he was
he didn't, and he failed.
It is the government of the day. Hold on, I've even said it up to 3 times in this meeting. It is the government of the day that will make that announcement. That's why we sent you what you can see.
Now, exactly.
It is the government of the day because that's why we said transition so that they can remain in place like Frederick de Klerk remained in place.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Lawal, hold on. You have answered the question. Hold on now. Tony, you have answered the question. The government of the day is going to do that.
The announcement in item 5.
The announcement for the commencement, right?
They are not. No. We say commitment. Hold on. They are not. When they announce,
you jump.
No. Let me
read the 5 points out.
This is why it was important from the first time.
Let me read the 5 points
to present what we are proposing.
Just to put this in
No. Andrew, hold on. Tony, you have to understand that Ninas and yourself does not have you and your group does not have. You do not have the ultimate. What you're doing, you're putting your own and
we have only made a proposition.
Likewise,
Hold on.
Likewise,
we have only made a proposition.
Exactly.
We have only made a proposition. If those who the sovereignty belongs to the people who are talking. The sovereignty belongs to those who can leave this union today. The sovereignty belongs to those who can leave this union today. And they are closer to leaving that union than this shenanigans going on in the name of governance in Nigeria. Nigeria is a disputed union now. And the sovereignty belongs to them, inalienable. And so we're just moderating in the middle to say, let's not go the way of Yugoslavia.
Who are going to do these things? How are they going to be done?
The reason I sound the way I'm sounding. The reason I sound the way I'm sounding is that we place the answers. Hold on. We place the answers on the table since 2020. If they are not willing, if they're not going to look.
Another story. Oh, yeah.
Guys.
The meetings with them. The sovereignty belongs to those who can leave the union. If a majority are fed up in the affairs of their company, they can gather under a mango tree and dissolve that company. You may think you have an army, but that army is made up of Yoruba, Ijo, Ogoni, Igbo, everybody, middle belt. So that army you are going to rely on to go and beat down everybody. I tell you, the guns in their hand will be pointed at their commanders. If the only thing that the people want is a resolution of a matter that is choking them to death, and you sit in Abuja and say it cannot be discussed. Babangida actually said that if anybody raises this issue, wear his uniform and go back to battlefield.
Tony,
okay,
sorry,
please,
calm down.
Tony, hold on. Please, moderator, just allow me 5 minutes to take this issue up so that we can put it in perspective. Tony,
yes, Mr. Lawale, hold on. Mr. Lawale, veteran chair, I will bring you in.
For 1 hour.
Hold on now. I will bring you in now. Let me, please now. You are the one causing trouble. You're the one causing trouble. Hold on now, veteran chair. Let me come. See here. Electricity. I mean, I would have left you to this. but on a serious note here, I wanted to see, my thing here is when I go back to the notes I made in terms of accepting the constitutional, that there is constitutional grievances, accepting that, or rather accepting to decommission the entity, accepting that there ought not to be or rather, when we get to 3.3, which is no more election, then the fourth point, which is the commit to 2 stages, which is, which is listed out, then the formal announcement, which Tony agreed that the formal announcement will be made by the government. My question is, if the government decides, the government of the day, decide not to engage in any of these processes, what mechanism does Ninas have to make that to happen? And that's where I wanted him to. Sadly that he's logged off. For us to get back to what Mr. Olawole said before, which is very, very key, advocacy and pressure. Oh, Tony is back. Bring him in. Tony, I want you to listen to this. The challenge is, if I tell you to give me 2 minutes answer, it's in fact, I'm not going to be able to extract that from you. Now, my question before your telephone yanked you off is, if I look at the 5 points that you've listed, right, from A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, number 4 has two legs, then coming to the final one, which is the formal announcement of all the agreements. And you said that these agreements will be done by the government of the day. It doesn't matter the day.
No,
right?
no, not the agreement, the announcement.
The announcement, yes, now.
The agreement.
Because when you agree on anything, it's the government of the day that will make the announcement, isn't it?
Hold on, so that you've jumped
no,
something.
Hold on
here.
now, please. Let's make this thing short. The question
No, you've already left. You've already left what we said. I said the announcement. The announcement. If we want to solve this problem on the 15th of March, on the 15th of May, if we want to solve this problem now on the 15th of May, whoever is presiding over Nigeria now, or whoever he mandates, can go to make an announcement that we now acknowledge the problem. We will solve this problem. We'll
now the question then to you is,
there will be a two-stage procedure. There will be a two-stage procedure with the will go and do this.
No, hold on here. I have brought us to that point. If we now say, now hold on, Mr. Olawole. The question then to you, Tony, is in 2 minutes. Mr. Olawole here said that, because when I asked him, how is it? Hold on now. Hold on, please.
Let me ask my question by myself. Let me do this thing myself.
Now, Mr. Olawole said during his own presentation that I asked him, the eminent Nigerians, which is the Patriots, that comprised the late Mr. The late Nwabeze and Faya Bibanjo and Co, right?
Yes.
That's how are they going to enforce their own idea? He said, and he made it very clear, through advocacy and through pressure. That's on one plank. The 5 points that you have listed, if the government ignores all the entreaties you've been making since the last 24 years or 23 years, as the case may be,
why did the National Assembly say they're going to write a new constitution?
No, hold on now. If they ignore that,
they are not in any position to.
But if they do, and they've been doing, if they do,
go ahead.
How are you going to enforce that? That is the question.
Problem is that we have had this constitution since 1999. By the time we went to court in 2007, many people did not even know there was a problem. But we had come to the point where we had called a meeting of the owners and we had an outcome, for which reason we went to court to say there's this illegitimacy we must resolve before we proceed. Of course, not too many people woke up until things came to where they said they would do ungovernable in 2011. That was when many people came to say, has it come to where nobody else can be president? Then the sitting president, under the pressure coming from his own people who have seen their salvation in what we are doing, sat down and, so we have made progress to the point where, did you hear the National Assembly say they were going to write a new constitution for us in 24 months? Did you hear them say so? Was it out of the milk of human kindness or the pressure that has come to them where they are?
But even if that is what National Assembly, even if that is what National Assembly is saying, it still does not validate your point, because you say they do not.
I'm saying
they
you are talking about how do we enforce.
No,
you are talking about how do we get them to.
Therefore,
No,
it's
that
not
was
as a
your
result.
question. Your question is, how do we get to what if they don't listen? And I'm telling you that the owners of the sovereignty are in every position to take their sovereignty and work. It is this constitution that took their sovereignty, took their economic assets, took the right to carry arms. Ninas has come to the point where we told them, if the government does not come, with the constitution you have prepared. Hold on.
Sorry,
that is the present. It is the day they wake up. It is the day they wake up and see that people are taking back their economic assets and taking the guns they need to defend themselves in their space. It is this constitution. I am the lawyer that can tell you. I know what it is. I know where the lines are.
Okay.
The question of gun. The question of gun. The question of gun. It is this constitution that forbids them from touching gun. And if we have defeated this constitution, they will carry arms to defend themselves in their space. The only people committing treason now are the ones who swear to defend and uphold and govern by this constitution.
Let me bring Mr. Olawole in here. You know, I think your point is well made. Mr. Olawole, now the floor is yours. Let me yield. I give you 5 minutes because obviously we've spent time back and forth with on this. So I'll yield 5 minutes to you. So let's listen to your submission.
I appreciate the passion of Tony Nadi. I appreciate the point that power belongs to the people. Sovereignty belongs to the people.
We're not talking about passion. We're talking about the issues on the table. Don't talk about passion. We're talking about issues of life and death, issues of falsehood and truth. We are building on a foundation of falsehood. We are building on a foundation of falsehood, and if I'm the one to suffer from that falsehood, I will commit all my energy to pulling down that construction.
Can you allow me to make my point, please?
You started wrongly by saying passion. It's not about passion. It's about the points being made, the issues, the facts, the truth, and the falsehood that we're building upon. Don't talk about passion, okay?
There are processes.
Do you know the process more than I do? Do you know the process more than I do?
You made your submission. Allow him. Please allow him. Go ahead.
You came to meet the movement that is doing this. You came to meet me in that movement. And I have worked in that movement for 30 years. When you were nowhere near that movement. Even in the SNC struggle, which was a revolutionary process by itself, not a legal one that we are pursuing now. Therefore, I am saying that I appreciate your passion and commitment to the fact that you want a new constitutional agreement that works for the people. But
or
then,
the dissolution of the union, or the immediate dissolution of the union. It's not a matter of wanting. We are asserting our right to self-determination. We are taking back our sovereignty on our own terms.
Yes, okay. Can you allow me, please?
It's not about passion. It's about sovereignty.
Self-determination is a right of the people. Please, can you just allow me? You have spent more than 1 hour speaking. Self-determination in itself is the right of the people. And every people have the right to self-determination. And we agree to all of that. But we are saying, given Nigerian context, how do you proceed to a people's constitution, a democratic, legitimate, people's own constitution? That's the point we are making.
That's why we have a plan on the table that nobody's willing to look at. And we're going to ignore them and carry on with what we're doing.
Wait, now,
we have a process on the table.
We are not going to engage ourselves in high-falutin idealism.
You call it high-falutin? You call the brain of people that are being wasted by people like you high-falutin?
Your procedure is going to lead us to anarchy. Except to those.
The earlier we get to that anarchy, 25 years and they will not listen, that anarchy is already upon the people.
Hold on. Let us tell you, because you do not even have the force to back what you are trying to do.
That anarchy is already upon the peoples of Nigeria. So
wait, now you do not have the people.
Let us that anarchy.
Up till today.
If we can't agree,
I doubt. Wait now. I doubt if you can mobilize.
I don't have to wait for you.
500 people
All
around
right.
this idea.
Mr.
But then,
Olawale. Mr.
but
Olawale, sorry
then,
for interrupting you. Mr.
you
Olawale,
don't have
I
to stop me
apologize.
now. You
Okay,
don't
go
have
ahead.
to stop me now, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Please,
Go
you
ahead.
don't have to stop me now.
Go ahead.
Please. What we are saying is that what is the most strategic procedure, democratic, legitimate procedure to a people's constitution? It's not by saying that
We have something
the
on the
National
table.
Assembly.
We have something on the table that have been on the table.
Mr. Tony, with due respect,
It's
I
not,
think we should do
okay,
this.
can I just round up?
Okay, go
Whatever
ahead.
we have been proposing is still not even appreciated by the mass of the people. And the mass of the people you see in 2023 went to election because they know their leaders. And then we stood with them, guided them, and we are still guiding them into a process of a new constitution. The way to do it is to look at what exists and what is the safest means for the people so that we do not have undue casualty as if we are anarchists. And that process will have to take what I call a bill. What exists now in terms of government that you are talking about is the National Assembly, the presidency, and the court, the judiciary. A bill, either through executive powers of the president or through the legislative power of that, must come to the National Assembly to say, look, we need to have a provision in your constitution that will give room for the people themselves to give unto themselves a constitution that is legitimate and democratic. And that process can only be achieved through a constituent assembly or constitutional conference and referendum. Any other thing is either through a revolution or a coup. So I don't know what is proposing, what strategy. Is it a coup or a revolution? Yes, it could be a revolution, where a group of people like NAS come and take one dress. But we are now talking political and legal procedure. And we are saying that what exists now is the 1999 Constitution that can be replaced. And the way to replace the 1999 peacefully is to propose a bill. And that bill will go to the state legislature as provided by even the 1999 Constitution, come back and then amend Section 8 and Section 9 to allow the Nigerian people to give unto themselves a constitution that is owned by them, that is legitimate, that is democratically agreed. That is the way to proceed. It's not to say some people will sit somewhere and the rest. No, there must be a constituent assembly, and the constituent assembly will have nationalities, the ethnic nationality, and even other interest groups will be allowed to join in fashioning a new constitution. And that constitution must be voted for by the citizens, every citizen under universal adoption.
Mr. Olawale,
any other thing we amount to anarchy.
Mr. Olawale, who is going to constitute the constituent assembly that you've just referred to?
The constituent assembly will be constituted by whatever is prescribed in the new provision in the constitution. And there will be a new provision to say powers to constitute is given either to a constitution. Wait, a referendum commission is set up to do this, or you want the executive arm of something will be provided. A mechanism will be provided to say in that new provision to say this is the procedure for doing it, and it will have been thought through, not through some jingoism of we will do this. No, if you do that, it's either you are leading the people to anarchy and casualty.
Okay. So now,
anybody can go to court and say this is unconstitutional, and government will distance itself from it. Even you can go to court and say the constitution that gives birth to you or give birth to you as legislature is contrary to this. All of the things you are saying, and then they will stop it. They will be tied down. So why do we want to go through an anarchical, way? to doing something that is easily done through even a clear, peaceful process. That's my point. And
One
the process
thing,
has been set up by Nwabweze.
Masudi, have a follow-up question.
Nwabweze is an authority on this matter.
we will,
How the
we will be,
1999 constitution can be replaced.
gentlemen,
by
we will be rounding up shortly. But there is something that is very clear. From listening to both of you, one thing that is clear in my mind now is that the need, whether the nomenclature we choose, whether we'll call it a new constitution or, by Olawale, or what Mr. Tony Nadi will say, the new constitutional arrangement. But one thing is very clear. The nomenclature, in my view, I'm not a lawyer, but at least in the street parlance, we will say constitution still there inside. Whether na a stop for constitution, whether na constitutional arrangement, constitution still there inside that matter. However we want to look at it, it has become clear that the current system that we have, from both of you gentlemen here, is not working. Now, there is no need to beat ourselves, because one is saying we can actually work in tandem or in pari passu with the current holders of power, that there is nothing, as long as you're not bringing in coup or you're not grabbing power through coup, there is absolutely nothing you can virtually do without getting government involved one way or the other, right? Or even coercing them or ensuring that there is pressure. On the other hand, our good brother is saying we have sat down, that's Tony Nadi here, looked at it, mapped out a 5-point mechanism in order to restructure, in order to grab or get us to a place where we have this new constitutional arrangement. Again, if I get him right, that these things can be done by the constituents, irrespective whether of government wanting it or they don't like it, that Nigerians can do. In the middle of it is, however we want to take this, it means the Nigerian people, from whom the elected officials derive their sovereignty and their power, derive their powers, are the key issues here. So however we want, dislike one another, it means that we must find a way to go back and to continuously speak to the people, irrespective of which prescription we come with, because it means the people are the deciding factor. The people will decide which side they want to go, whether they are going to pander through the government owned or through saying, okay, the people must do it. It's still about the people. So in this, I will say, before I yield, that gentlemen, it has been an engaging and eye-opening conversation with two of you. I would yield for each of you maximum 3 to 5 minutes to give us your closing remark. And on that note, I yield electricity. I do not know if you have anything further to say before.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. Thank you, Veteran Lawale. Before you take your 3 minutes and before you go, Mr. Tony, I want to ask you your 5-point this thing. It's how we push it to the people. It's all about the people. I'm asking if you will commit to coming back here. Both of you will not be here at the same time, because I can see that it doesn't go well, but individually, the follow-up to this broadcast. So I will bring I'll bring you back here in respect to the 5 points, and I will sell these 5 points to the people. We all want the same thing. That's just the truth of the matter. We want a country.
No, we don't. That's a lie.
I withdraw that statement. My apologies, please. I withdraw that statement.
They want a master servant union that sits on my sovereignty and is at liberty to kill me. That's what they want. Okay. Well,
do you agree to come back? I mean, I will reach out to you personally and just have you alone here, and also Mr. Awale Veteran also in the subsequent broadcast. I think it's I'm not sure if he's hearing me. Come back again as a follow-up to this broadcast. I will have you back individually, so that, because we have to sell this message to the people, whether irrespective, regardless, because power belongs to them. I mean, I went to vote. I don't know, Mazi, where you are. I went to vote today in the United Kingdom, just across the road. It took me less than 5 minutes to walk into the polling and cast my vote, and I came out. And when I came out, a flashback to 2023 election, flashback. Wow! I mean, this past election, flashback. I say, wow! When are we going to come to this point that we can have election like this, even referendum? We definitely need a referendum, without a shadow of doubt, and we need that referendum commission, whoever is going, so that these issues can be addressed. So I'll use the floor to Mazi said 3 minutes each. He's the one moderating the last submission for both of you. So I yield the floor back. Thank you very much. Sorry, before I go, you guys, please, gentlemen, respectfully, Mr. Tony, are you committing to coming back on your own? Mr. Veteran, are you committing or coming back on this platform on your own, please?
We'll continue to engage our people. We'll continue to engage our people on this discussion. But I will then stipulate what we have to, so that we can have a discussion that will make sense.
No problem.
The documents were placed before the global community that has gone to the UN Security Council, upon which some entities have acted, entities that could get Nigeria into distress, had acted on it. You saw in 2021 at the UN General Assembly, where Buhari had to rent foreigners to pretend to be Nigerians. And so that proposition will be placed in your hands, and we will then discuss it along the lines of the propositions in a manner that the listeners can make a clear sense of what we are proposing, other than this mumbo jumbo that happened today by your own preference. I did tell you we had something. This is work of 25 years uninterrupted, involving nationality.
We will get there.
Then you have many people who hop in and out and come at their own time to come and waste everybody's time, to come and waste our time. That's what we have done today. We'll come back. But on the terms,
it's called dialogue.
A streamlined discussion.
No, it's called dialogue. It's not waste of time. It's called dialogue. If I'm going to win you over,
you can see how the dialogue. You can see how the dialogue has gone.
In my opinion,
very logical to us. We say we have not made a constitution, and people are recommending what the National Assembly will stand on that constitution to do for you as a starting point. Referendum Commission and all kinds of, some kind of reverse logic thoughts.
All right. I will, like I said, I'll bring both of you back.
Who have education, but they have no critical thinking to offer to these problems of society. And they are there dancing all over the place, talking trash.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not talking about I'm talking about all of those who do not want to examine the options available to them. And the country is burning. People are being killed in large numbers.
Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Wale. Mr. Wale, Mr. Tony said he's not referring to you, please. So there should be no punch back, please. Thank you. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
We started this process before people like you got involved. We started this process.
You see the kind of nonsense that shouldn't happen.
Gentlemen,
the conveners of the convention.
We started this process in 1989 under the National Consultative Forum led by Alawu Akabashon. And then we demanded for the Sovereign National Conference. And that is what has taken us through to this point. Over time, we have come to master the issues and the processes. In constitution making, the procedure is more important than the content. The procedure of making a constitution, the processes are far important than the content of it. And therefore, we are meticulous about the procedure of getting to a people's constitution. We don't want to do things that will put people to danger, things that really have no root. And that is why you see that if you look at more people today, they are with us in terms of reasoning, etc. You know, and we don't want to throw our people away to under the trailer.
Sorry, Mr. Veteran. Somebody is putting a question. No, somebody is putting a question to you. I just went to the comment section. It's a question I highlighted on the screen. I apologize for interrupting you. I just saw it now. They say, at Veteran, can you enlighten us on the practical step the Patriots have taken so far? What should we expect? Are there things that Nigerians can do in the meantime? This same individual addressed a question to Mr. Tony as well too. So this question is to you. Again, I apologize.
Can I just take that? Well, the Patriots started by building consensus among the elite and the political class. And that was what, you know, the high point of the March 18 National Constitutional Dialogue on the future of Nigeria. That's the first thing, build consensus, renew it to see whether we are still on the right track, to check from political leaders, leaders of thought, traditional rulers, civil society leaders, labor leaders. And that consensus was built around the fact that Nigeria needs a new democratic, legitimate people's constitution to replace the amendment process of the National Assembly. Because what the National Assembly has done so far, or the country has done so far, is to continue to amend a constitution that is Decree 24 of 1999. And that is no longer acceptable to us. So Patriot has done that. Patriot flowing from the resolution of that colloquium or national dialogue will be engaging the National Assembly formally and will be engaging the presidency. A delegation is expected to be to visit both organs to discuss the outcome of that and to encourage government to take up the process. And they can drive it if they are the existential condition of the country, the objective situation in the country of this humongous death we witness, kidnapping, insecurity, etc. Government will also see that will require that we do something about our constitution. And so we are going to engage government. That's what the next step. But however, we cannot do things that people will think is either these people are mad or they do not know what they are doing. At the level, at that highest level, they will not want to do things that they will say, these are small boys or these are charlatans. And therefore, you engage what you have now. And I thank God that even him, he has said that the government of the day will be to announce. Now, let's engage that government properly, even with his own constitution. Say, look, your constitution allows you to amend this, and therefore, we can make provision for the people to operate. And that is the way to go, sensibly, peacefully, in a logical manner, rather than say that there are some people who are owners. Who made who owners? Who selected those people? People will ask you questions that will raise you legitimacy. Who are you? Even your own Southeast.
Okay, Mr. Lawale, thank you very much. I think that
Southeast people, am I mandated by the Yoruba people to speak? So we must first derive our legitimacy from the Constituent Assembly, elected Constituent Assembly, where people will be elected. You are not elected. You can't assume spokesperson for the Nigerian people. And we cannot even prescribe the kind of constitution that until we get to the Constituent Assembly, it will be as if we are foisting our own agenda. But what is common to us is that we need a democratic assembly like National Assembly, like the Constituent Assembly, and we need a national referendum. That is our point, and that's where we stand in engaging government. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tony, do you have anything to say, to add to it? Your final word.
Again.
Oh, you did. Oh, sorry. Apologies. I didn't know. Yeah, Mr. Njenje TV. Mr. Tony, I'll reach out to you back. Mr. Veteran Olawale, I'll reach back to you. Apologies the way we can't hear you, Mr. Tony. Can you? We still cannot. We still cannot hear you. We can't hear you. The system. I think there's something. You are not muted.
I think I can leave now.
Yeah, Mr. Olawale, I will get in touch with you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, gentlemen,
we can't hear you.
So thank you very much. That's been a conversation with Mr. Tony Nadi, the Secretary General, I understand, of the Nigerian, or rather the coordinating secretary of the National Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS. It's been a very enlightening conversation. Okay, Tony, I think Tony is back. Maybe one. Tony, do you want to have a minute, final submission? Just 1 minute.
I hadn't made my closing remarks before you handed to him.
Yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours, Mr. Tony.
Right. The matter is straightforward. The talk of Constituent Assembly, the item 4 that has 2 stages. After the government had made the announcement, the nationalities will then go back to their places and work out certain details and then come with their charters. It is in that second stage of coming to negotiate that there will be now a body that will have delegates they elected mandated with constituent powers that will put the finishing touches to what they have. That's where the Constituent Assembly comes in. And secondly, the question of the National Assembly, the same constitution we say we have not made, is what they are relying on to go and amend before we can get started. At the pleasure of the National Assembly, that is the beneficiary of all of what we are complaining about, imposed on all of us. The process that NINAS has placed on the table, that has come through a long, winding, engagement process of the peoples and the institutions that need to have something or the other to do with it, does not require any such input as that National Assembly approving of anything. The only thing that needs to happen is for them to accept we have this problem and to lay out the mechanism by which it will be solved and allow the owners of the sovereignty in those 2 stages to go and sort out their union, the question of union, and the terms of the union. What they are trying to do is to avoid that discussion. That's the reason they're throwing themselves all over the place. And let it be clear that it is an option for the owners of the sovereignty to leave the union on their own terms. It is that constitution that confiscated their sovereignty in that claim that they submitted it. Is that constitution that confiscated their economic assets in that exclusive list you see? Is that constitution that confiscated their right to carry arms, including their governors? And so, if they have disowned that constitution to the extent that National Assembly is not talking about new constitution, and even the Patriots say that the constitution is illegitimate, and that National Assembly, even 1,000 amendments cannot cure it. And they are now in that confusion, still referring us to that National Assembly that will have to amend something. You have to go and beg them. They've been begging them since 1999. it doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. And so, unless they come face to face with the consequences of the collapse of that constitution, which has already happened, the only reason they haven't come face to face with the impact of it is that the owners of the sovereignties have not yet gotten acquainted with what has happened. And we're going to intensify what we're doing with them to the point where the government will be the one looking for them to hold a meeting, because they can proceed unilaterally in their sovereignty and self-determination. They do not require any meeting with anybody, including the people in Abuja. But if sanity will return to our heads sooner than later, the government can accept that there's a problem. We're already accommodating them in the transition we offered. But they have to accept it while it lasts, because if the people who are choking embark on unilateral steps because the government has refused to listen, we'll be watching all of them. Like Yugoslavia went up in flames before they put it back. But there were other countries that had the sense to discuss. Like, we're asking them to come, let us see whether we've not written any constitutions. We're only saying, let us accept what the problem is. Let us, outline the step-by-step of how we can do it. It won't take 6 months if we listen to ourselves. But if we sit on our high horse to say we are now the owners of all of you and we can beat you up, we do not need any meeting with them. Benjamin Okalo and the rest that are talking trash in Abuja, they are illiterate on the subject matter, and we have exhausted all of the patience in talking to them. For this is the 10th assembly. We dealt with all of the assemblies from 1999. There was a time we had to go there to sit down quietly with them so that it's not an altercation in the public space. We've sat down with all the presidents of Nigeria since 1999. But there are people who think that because they can confuse the masses, that they can go to another election and go to another election, swearing to defend and uphold the constitution that killed the people, that impoverished the people. And they're hoping that it will remain like that and people continue to obey them and do what they say. It's not going to remain like that.
Sorry, Mr. Tony, can I ask you a question? Sorry, Mr.
Yes.
You stated in one of your arguments, you stated that there should be no election until such time that the constitution, we got to new constitution. Am I correct?
Very much so.
So how is that possible? Let's
look at what did South Africa do in 1990? They had their apartheid. So they had their apartheid constitution.
If we are going to go that route, Mr. Tony, if we're going to go that route, we are coming back to the same thing. This must be solved. Wait, Mr. Tony.
The default. What will happen?
Hold on 1 second.
Hold on. The default, so that you can understand the weight of what you're about to suggest. The default is that those who are being slaughtered do not have forever to wait. If there's something else that can relieve them of the killings that are happening to them, they will opt for that thing. Their sovereignty is inalienable. It belongs to them. They don't require anybody's permission to exercise it, to assert it, to take it back.
Mr. Tony, my question is this.
Yes.
Not my question. If we are coming to that point of not going for an election, that means it's the people we have to focus our energy on, because you and I can't sit down here and say we don't go for election.
Are we sitting down? Did you see the solemn assemblies? Did you see the solemn assemblies of the peoples of Nigeria that happened in 2015 in Port Harcourt, in 2017 in Ibadan, in 2018 in Makurdi? The owners of the sovereignties, as best as they could assemble themselves, have spoken to the global community that their union is choking them.
Mr. Tony,
we're engaging them day and night. Today alone, I've had up to 16 different engagements today.
Okay, so I appreciate that. This engagement will continue to be able for us to find a lasting solution to whether it is separation of power or whether the Igbos
at this moment, in the face of the fraud upon which we are building, this is the reason we say we have no union right now. But we're not anarchists. We recognize that if we say, oh no, it ends now, it may become Somalia. So we say,
if you
those in government house,
say we have no union right now, who are the we you are referring
the owners of the Yoruba you saw the other day, the eastern side you saw the other day, the Ijaw you saw the other day, all of those people saying they are fed up with Nigeria. They are the owners of their land. Nigeria is supposed to be an aggregation of their sovereignties. And the claim in this document is that they submitted their sovereignty. That is the point in contention.
So that means we need a referendum to ensure that
will referendum fall from the sky?
No, that is what we are saying. We have to push for it.
We have to acknowledge the problem. We have to acknowledge the problem.
I believe, Mr. Tony, over the years, we have acknowledged.
Those are the things. You don't start to build a house from the roof.
Mr. Tony, with due respect,
those things will come in those modalities.
Mr. Tony,
it is part of the modality. How do we do it step by step from when we commit to doing it?
Mr. Tony, with due respect,
yes.
I did when I started this broadcast, I said I am for amendment and change in behavior. That was my position, even in our private discussion. However, when I saw the statement that a new constitution will save Nigeria, in finding a solution to a problem, there has to be compromise. There has to be shift. So I represent, quote and unquote, I represent the millions of Nigerians who wants this constitution to be amended and a change of behavior, but we are not making a shift to come to your what?
Ignorance is not a viewpoint.
Wait, we are making a shift.
Ignorance is not a viewpoint to say, okay, I'm moving from my previous position. If you didn't know the matter is a powder situation and you thought it was liquid, and you now come to realize it's powder, you come to zero first to join the powder side. And you listen to the ones who knew it was powder all the while.
Okay, Mr. Tony, what exactly do you want?
It's not about me. We have a proposition on the table.
Okay, so how do we sell this proposition? How do we sell this proposition? My focus is the people.
The people who are looking for these answers, the people who are going to sell, the people who now realize we have a problem we need to solve.
Where are they? Where are they that we're going to sell it to? Where are they?
Including, no. Before you begin to sell, have you examined if you were given 30 minutes in a podium now, can you represent what Ninas is proposing, which has been on the table on the global stage since 2020, printed in the major newspapers, and circulated everywhere, official and unofficial, since 2020. If you cannot do that, it means there's a gap. You need to examine it. Then the Patriots will give you a document too that you can examine and explain. That's how to market. You have to get operational knowledge of what you want to engage so that you can explain it to a third party. What has happened here is that people who have nothing to offer other than noise and ignorance.
No, Mr. Tony, don't let us make it personal, please, because we are trying to.
I'm talking about even the Patriots.
Okay,
I'm talking about all of the groups.
We are not going to make it personal. Look at the statement on the screen, Mr. Tony.
Documents you needed to look at.
Mr. Tony, look at the statement on the screen. Both of you are saying the same thing, more or less. Okay,
no,
all right.
No.
Okay, both of you are not saying the same thing.
That fellow you see there, was in the same Pronaco. He didn't know how it all came. Nadeko fought off the soldiers. The soldiers dumped the Constitution of 79 on everybody illicitly. The same conveners of Nadeko now convened a meeting of the owners of Nigeria, the nationalities. That was what became Pronaco. That was the point at which he came. He didn't know where the conveners of Nadeko, how they came to say, okay, let us leave government. I was the one in the middle of it because we engaged Obasanjo. I did engage Obasanjo for almost 5 years. From 1999, I attended his inauguration in 1999 on account of our involvement in how they managed that transition. Say, can you now call a meeting to sort out this matter? You are witness to what went wrong from 99. And so Obasanjo played around for a while and then went on national TV when the whole thing had gathered momentum to say it would amount to treason. We ignored him and beckoned at all the people who are committed to come in, and they came. When he saw the people that had gathered, he realized it wasn't the kind of people he would begin to, because you are now going to arrest Enohoro, and arrest Ojukwu, and arrest all kinds of other people, Soyinka that returned from California, arrest Buhari. Buhari that you see now was part of the Fulani delegation that turned up. Syed Abubakar was part of the Fulani delegation that had to come at some point or the other. And so this was something bigger than government. And the people who were already carrying arms across the entire place, the jaw of Asari Dokuba and the volunteer force, the Ghanaian Adams and his OPC, Wazirika and his master, we were able to persuade them. You don't know what it took. At the time, they were not willing to obey the government anymore. You saw when police had to cover their uniform in Yoruba land to go to work because of what OPC was doing. And so we persuaded all of them. We got them to sit down and we showed them what we could do that will solve that problem they're trying to solve. Having done all of that, we then proceeded in 2007 to raise the issue formally about the constitution. And they had no answer to it. And then the nationalities began to listen, and we told them what to begin to do. They went out on their solemn assemblies to tell the whole world that they were fed up with what Nigeria was dishing to them. Step by step to where we have now a package that can take this matter from start to finish in a matter of months. But the thing is that the people who impose this constitution, who are benefiting from it, who contest election every 4 years under it, are saying, you guys can't talk to us anymore. It's how we do it that it will be. We then told them that they are ignorant on the question of the sovereignty, which was what Nwabweze was wrong about, and made a U-turn in 2013 to say sovereignty belongs to the. It was wrong for us to do it the way we did it, and so it was in that intensive engagement with the system that the one who guided them had to turn around his position. And then we thought we were moving in one direction, only for them to regroup again. Olisa Bokaba jumps out from somewhere, Ozekome jumps out from the other places. They are illiterate on the subject of constitution making. They may know any other thing, but on this subject, they are illiterate. That's why they are pointing to the National Assembly for making of any constitution. The process must be something the people are the ones bringing their sovereignty to negotiate with other sovereignties. And then they all agree on how to get into union. They define the boundaries. They define the tiers of government. They define the powers and responsibilities of the center and all of that. Only them can do it. National Assembly does not have constituent powers to deal with any of that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
If we're not prepared to listen, if we're not prepared to examine a proposition, in all the times we were interviewed overseas, like particularly in the US government took 7 months to sit down and listen and examine documents of how these things can be done in a manner that And so in Nigeria, people are just throwing questions without examining what they are coming to talk about.
Mr. Tony, there is a comment here. I would like to rephrase it as a question. How can we sell this view, Nina's view, or bring it to the attention of the government for them to accept it?
Let those who are asking that question go and they have to look at it. It's in black and white. It's on our website.
No, Mr. Tony, listen, Mr. Tony.
We
want the government.
How can you go to tell government what you can't explain, assuming that you get a call this night?
No, I mean you. When I say we, I'm referring to you, Ninas, not me.
We have it. We have reduced it to the most digestible form, such that those who are looking for answers to the Nigeria that is collapsing from all sides can examine it and either agree with it or bring something better than it. It's only a proposition, but it is detailed. It connects with the problem. It connects with the people. It connects with the constitution we have. It connects with the procedures, including the National Assembly and the president and the governors, the existing governance structures. It connects with everything to say, this is where you are. This is where you will be in that period of sorting out this thing. We have an example in South Africa. that they came to where they had to do away with the apartheid constitution that had ruined their society. And the government only said, we will do so. Then they continued the day-to-day governance, and CODESA went in to work out the details among the sovereignties. When they finished, they took it to referendum and went to election. They didn't kill themselves all over, but they listened to themselves and took a middle ground of the mechanism for doing it. And they went into doing it. The problem here is that the people we're talking to believe that they have become stronger and that they have guns. But we have something bigger than gun. This constitution is gone. This constitution is dead. The sovereignties hijacked by it are back in the hands of the owners. And it includes the right to armed self-defense. Because there's no Nigeria. The only reason we are still talking to people in government is on account of the transition that we have offered them. If they waste that opportunity, they will wake up to having to pursue after the constituent components that will take unilateral actions. You may think it's not possible, but they didn't believe that they will come to this situation they are now.
Mr. Tony, there's a question on the screen for you there. Tony, can you work with Biafra and Afenifere to achieve your proposal?
What is the meaning of Biafra?
I mean, it's a question from the audience.
That question is illiterate and ignorant. I don't know what Biafra is.
Okay.
Afenifere, the head of Afenifere was signatory to the force majeure that has this 5-point proposition. The head of PANDEF, the head of Ohaneze, Nyanwodo was Ohaneze president. The head of Middle Belt Forum and the head of the four of them, they are sitting heads, were part of the 128 signatories to the proposition we have on the table. With a whole number of retired generals.
Mr. Tony. For those of you in the comment section, if you have questions for Mr. Tony, please kindly put your question out there. I'll show you another question, Mr. Tony. So, in all you're saying now, Mr. Tony, it still boils down to the government agreeing to this. Is that correct?
They don't. They have a choice to accept this procedure that accommodates them. We also have, while we have spent all this time trying to persuade them, we have also been working on what will happen if they don't come. The sovereignties, we're talking about lands and peoples. The sovereignties belong to the people, the constituent components, not the states, not the geopolitical zones. Yoruba land has a beginning and it has an end. So the Yoruba people, as I speak with you, they have their constitution in place that they will ratify by some procedure if the meeting is not holding. Some of them are even saying they don't want to have any meeting with anybody anymore. You saw them in Ibadan the other day. In the eastern side, the same thing. The constitutions that will aggregate their lands into a cohesive formation to federate. Urobo land begins somewhere. Ijo land ends somewhere. Ogoni land is no. Igbo land is not in dispute. We have, across these many years, sat down with them, brought them together. They went out in a solemn assembly to adopt the map that delineate them in the manner they can federate outside the view of all other people. Those are the kind of things we have done over these years. In the Middle Belt, the Tiv, the Jokun, the Idoma, we've gone round all of them and we got them sitting down, working out the documents for what will be their constitution. Nigeria is occupying their space. Nigeria is killing them and confiscating their economic assets. Nigeria is alleging that they were the ones who submitted their lands into the union. We are organizing them within the right they have to self-determination, within their right to their sovereignties. And we have brought a process to it to accommodate those who happen to be in government house at this time.
Let me highlight what made me laugh. It probably will make you laugh as well too. Why he laugh? Someone said Mr. Tony has been on this matter since he was 13 years old, and he wonder why DSS has never picked you up for consistent.
Well, his ignorance.
No, Mr. Tony. His
ignorance can speak. We have the DSS. Hold on.
It's
That's
been jovial,
ignorance.
Mrs. Tony.
Because that's part of the propaganda they throw around, that there must be some arrangement. The DSS and the government and the army and the police and all of those people that accuse them of things and shoot them, they draw all their power. They are all institutions created by this constitution. And so we who have defeated this instrument are here telling them that they are committing treason against us when they hang on to a document we knew nothing about as basis of union and basis of the powers they exercise. That's the problem. They dare not come to ask us anything about what we are doing. They dare not. They are the ones committing treason. They are the ones committing an offense for which we could levy any kind of punishment we decide if they refuse to listen.
According to Gladys Oyibo, she said our people in diaspora are keenly watching issues unfolding in our country. Please, what is the way forward in our beloved country? Kidnapping and killing of innocent people have become...
Nigeria is not... the Nigeria they are talking about died in 1966. The carcass was hijacked by Murtala Mohammed and the military wing of the Caliphate. It is the carcass of that Nigeria he or she thinks, if it's a Gladys, these days we don't know which one they choose to be. The carcass of that Federation of Nigeria is the unitary Nigeria masquerading as Nigeria now. That Nigeria defined by this constitution is not my project. It's not the project of all of those who are rejecting it now, and they are in a majority. So the first thing is to acknowledge the truth that they have abandoned the federation we agreed to have with them. They have hijacked our own sovereignty and are imposing themselves on us at gunpoint. But they put our signature on the instrument by which they are doing that. And we are insisting that we either discuss the matter now or we disperse within our rights to take back our sovereignties on our own terms.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. Yeah, thank you for your time. It's highly appreciated as we bring the broadcast to an end. I will reach out to you as agreed, and we will come back here again in respect to the Nina's 5 point, and we will keep hammering it, keep pushing it, keep preaching it until it will make it by fire by force if possible, until they accept it. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. I will contact you over the week. Thank you very much. To those in the comment section, thank you also for your comment. It's been a lovely night. We've been here 3 hours, 2 minutes. So thank you, Mazi and Mr. Veteran Olawale as well too. And I will hope to come back to you again in the next coming days or weeks. It's good night from me, and God bless you, and have a lovely weekend. And stay out of trouble if you can. God bless.